Okay, and we're live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome back to BWTM Sports. This is part 2 with Uncle James Ali Bashir, boxing guru, mentor, and we're just looking forward to hearing what he's got to say tonight. I think how we ended it was us talking about the Wilder versus Fury 2, the fight, and you said that you would go back and review the video and then give your honest opinion for what you thought of the fight. So you've gone back and watched the fight. What are your thoughts about it?
Well, you know, I can understand Deontay's being upset about the fight being stopped at that specific time during the fight. Because you know, I was this the first time I looked at it since then, and I kind of agree with Deontay that the fight should not have been stopped, not at that juncture. He had taken a couple of shots, but I saw him fire. I think it was a left uppercut in retaliation, which lets me know that yes, he was still in control of his faculties. And that the timing of Mark and Jay stopping the fight, the timing was just bad.
Okay.
I guess they were there at ringside. They were closest to the actions, and maybe they was reading into the situation differently from what I was, from what I saw. But from what I observed, and then Deontay walked towards them in the corner, and he asked, "Why did you stop the fight?" So he was still very coherent. So yeah, I can agree with Deontay now for the first time, because first I thought that, you know, the stoppage was a good stoppage, but then I looked at the fight today, and I see that the timing was bad for the stoppage. But again, Jay and Mark was there in the corner. They were reading into something perhaps that I couldn't see, you know, but I think that the timing when they stopped the fight was bad.
Okay, let's take it back to the beginning of the fight. Deontay Wilder's mannerisms before he actually got into round 1. He didn't see himself in the first round. And I'm not talking about footwork and Fury putting pressure on him. The balance looked off from the first minute. Can you explain that to me?
It just seemed like typical Deontay Wilder. Deontay, in my opinion, is an awkward guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's awkward. You know, his steps in the ring, his movement in the ring is awkward. He throws these punches from curious angles, and it was just typical of him. You know, I think that he made a mistake by backing away from Fury, even though Fury was the bigger, probably the heavier guy in the ring. I think that Deontay needs to establish who he is in this fight coming up. He has to go out there and he has to execute from day one. When the bell rings, he has to stand his ground and he has to gamble to get his pound of flesh, to get his respect. He cannot let Tyson come in and just bully him, just walk to him and bully him, because he does have some power. And like I said, at the point where they stopped the fight, I felt that, you know, it was a bad timing. The timing was bad. The intention probably was good, but the timing was bad.
Okay. See, I've seen Deontay, as you've done, a number of occasions. I've seen Deontay 2 fights I look at when he went, 3 fights when he went in and fought Ortiz. The second fight when he fought Brazil and he fought Stavern. The mannerisms before he started the fight. People say, "Oh, he was scared when he fought Tyson Fury." I don't buy that. His mannerisms when he was in the ring. You know, when Deontay gets in the ring, there's a steeliness about him. There's a focused. Even like almost like Lennox Lewis, when Lewis used to enter the ring, he had that look about him. He was in the ring, he was in the zone. Every fight I've seen with Deontay Wilder, he's in that zone. And as he's got more confident, that zone has looked more and more natural to him. In this fight, because I say fighters fight in patterns, so they do the same things more or less over and over again in terms of mannerisms and like the way he'll throw his right hands, like I always called it a bow and arrow. The arm would go back and then the right hand comes straight through. I understand Fury applying pressure, putting foot pressure on Wilder, yes, but that wasn't the first time someone's put foot pressure on Wilder. Ortiz, you could say, he's probably got maybe better footwork than Fury, and he backed Wilder up. You've had guys like Duhaupas back Wilder up. Now, when he's been backed up, he hasn't looked like his feet have been on ice, like he's ice skating. He is awkward, I get that's given. That ice skating thing, almost the same way that Povetkin was when he fought Dillian White the second fight. Because you look at the way Povetkin moved for the first fight, and then you watch him for the second fight, he had no balance. His balance and equilibrium was all over the place. And it just reminded me of when Wilder fought Fury the second fight. I mean, if he did that in the first fight, because even if you look at tape in the 12th round, when Fury got dropped by Wilder and he got up and he came back after Wilder, Wilder's footwork wasn't like that, and that was in the 12th round. So how can his footwork be more shocking in the second fight, in the first round of a second fight? That to me makes no sense, unless he was injured, his equilibrium wasn't there. Because if that was the case, and it was just typical Wilder, then we should have seen that in other fights. That's what I don't understand. It's that balance thing I had an issue with. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, it's hard to say because he took a couple of good shots from Fury in those first 3 rounds. He took a couple of good, clean shots, and it only takes one shot to damage the equilibrium, and then the bleeding from the ear added on to it.
Yes.
You know, I just want to get back to the point of the stoppage. I felt that Deontay was in control of his faculties because he did fire in retaliation. I saw him fire a really well-timed uppercut that just missed Fury. You know, he just missed him. He tried to sneak it in there. And that's it. I just think that the timing of the stoppage was bad. His equilibrium could have easily have been off. And you know, I also observed that a lot of Tyson's punches were in the back of the skull. It was on the back of the head. Those punches add on
are illegal.
The equilibrium being thrown off because he took a number of shots. You know, he took a number of shots on the back of the skull. You know, and that could have damaged. Deontay's equilibrium also. He kept landing the same punch, and Deontay was kind of shying away. I guess in a defensive mode, and he was inviting those punches on the back of the head. And the referee never cautioned Fury about them, you know. But he took a number of shots on the back of the head, so
yes,
that might have factored in.
Is that the referee's responsibility? And if not, if it is, then why didn't his corner, Wilder's corner, pull the referee up and say, "Look, this guy's punching on the back of the head. He's rabbit punching."
You know, a lot of things that people outside the ring make observations of. The people that's in that corner, they have split seconds with all the emotions, all of what's going on leading up to the fight, in the fight. it's they have split seconds to make decisions. Those observations, I'm sure that Mark and Jay look back on those and say, "Damn, I should have did this. I should have did that." But you have
Experience, uncle. Come on, experience. Come on.
yeah.
Yes,
But
look, rabbit punching from the first
yeah,
round. You're telling me in all those rounds, the trainer could not have picked up about the rabbit punching. That is.
I understand clearly what you're saying, but I've been there. I've been there in big fights, and you have split seconds, and there's so much going on. In that split second, sometimes you miss things, and you make observations later on when you look at the video and say, "Ah, I should have did this. I should have did that. I should have did this." You know, it's a lot of emotions, a lot of things going on. The fighter getting hurt, and a lot of things that the corners, even the lead trainer, is having to deal with. So sometimes you miss certain things. You know, you miss certain things that you wish later on that you had not missed. But that's the case. You know, you look back at the videos and you say, "Damn, I should have noticed that. I didn't notice it." You know, it got past me. You know, it got past me. But I think that a big part of what happened in the ring was due to the fact that Deontay kept getting hit in the back of the cranium, on the base of the skull.
That affects your curriculum. It also affects your eyes. I mean, you get hit back there, you start seeing three people.
Deontay took a number of shots from a big guy like Tyson. He took a number of shots on the base of the skull. He kept getting hit in the same place with the right hand. And this is a big man. You know, this is a big man. So I'm thinking that Malik and Deontay has to create something to deflect that kind of thing. Perhaps he's got to pick up on his jab. I felt that Deontay could have been using a better jab, a more consistent jab, because that jab would have kept Tyson Fury at bay. Because Tyson Fury, you know, with all the talk that he does, he's very aware that Deontay Wilder is a dangerous puncher. And that jab can be the camouflage to deliver the right hand. But he's got to deliver the right hand straight, not arcing, not looping. He's gotten away with it thus far. But Tyson Fury is well schooled. He's a well-schooled individual, and he's aware of the right hand. Deontay Wilder is telegraphing his right hand. He needs to fire the right hand straight. He needs to camouflage it, set the window dressing with the jab, and sneak that right hand in. But he's got to follow it with left hooks. That's what's missing.
You talk about the right hand, but it was the left hook that dropped Fury. You talk about the right hand, but it was the left hook that dropped Fury.
You heard
right
what
hand,
I just said?
left hook. Yeah.
Yes. I said that he has got to follow the right hand with the left hook. You understand? Because he's preparing mentally, spiritually, he's preparing for the right hand. He's preparing himself to take it, but he's not looking for the left hook. He's not looking for the left hook because he's not noted for that. So I think that he has to do the window dressing with the jab. Deontay was firing a good jab to the belly, and Tyson was firing a good jab to the belly. But they got to be more consistent. You know what I'm saying? They got to be more consistent. Jab, and then double jab, and then jab the belly, and then jab the head, and jab the belly again. You know, you've got to work out there. You can't go out there and take a vacation. I mean, this is not the Bahamas. This is not Aruba somewhere. You got to go out there and go to work. This is for the heavyweight championship of the world, and everything is at stake. You know, there's a number of things that I would invite Tyson to do, and a number of things that I invite Deontay to do. You know, I'm sitting back and I'm observing this. You know, it's going to be a good fight. I think that Deontay is in this fight. I think that he has a chance. I don't care if Tyson came in at 350 pounds. I think that Deontay has a good chance of regaining his stature and respect in the heavyweight division. Everything is at stake in this fight.
There are people saying, well, Tyson beat the first time, Tyson beat the second time. Why do we need to see a third fight? Is it as cut and dried as that from a seasoned trainer such as yourself?
I think that it merits a third fight. I think it merits a third fight because of the way that Deontay went out. I wasn't in agreement with the timing on the stoppage. I wasn't in disagreement of the stoppage, but I was in disagreement of the timing of the stoppage. I was shocked when they threw the towel in. I was shocked because I thought that even though he had taken a couple of shots, I felt that he was still in the fight. And then when he walked back to the corner and said, hey, why y'all stop the fight? He was too coherent. You know, so the timing, like I said, a lot of things goes on in a big fight. And I'm sure that Mark and Jay probably said, you know, let's pull him out of there and save him for another day. So you have split second timing to make an assessment, and that's what they probably did.
Wilder sacked Breland, and he kind of alluded to the fact that he saw pictures of Breland with Team Fury. That's what he kind of alluded to in the interview without talking too much about it. And he kind of felt that he was betrayed by Breland. Your thoughts?
He saw Breland with Team Fury. I know Mark Breland personally. I've known him over the years. I knew him in the amateurs. I knew him in the pros, and I've had dealings with Mark Breland here and there throughout time. Okay. And I've always known him. I don't know what happened again. I don't know what happened between him and Mark or Deontay and Mark, but I've always known Mark Breland to be an upstanding human being. I'm not talking about a boxing trainer. I've always known him to be an upstanding human being. In fact, I've never seen Mark Breland angry. Not once. I've never seen him angry. I've never seen Mark Breland in a position where he was angry. You know? And this guy is I saw him one time in the Crunk Gym, and Mark Breland nailed Tommy Hearns. This is going back many, many years ago. Mark Breland nailed Tommy Hearns and wobbled him. In my view, he wobbled Tommy Hearns. And Tommy Hearns went in that corner, and Emmanuel was bawling him out that he had did something wrong. But the whole time Emmanuel was speaking to Tommy, Tommy never, ever, ever took his eyes off of Mark Breland. You know, emotion, anger. And Tommy went back out there in that next round, and he nailed it. I mean, they got into a firefight, and Tommy nailed Mark and dropped Mark on that floor. If it had been a fight, it would have been a knockout. Because when Mark finally got up, which took about 18, 19 seconds, when Mark got up, he was in no condition to keep boxing. And still, Mark Breland took it with a grain of salt. He caught me. And he just got out the ring and went on doing about something else. So I've never seen Mark Breland angry. I've never seen Mark Breland in a cutthroat situation where he would do something vile. Again, I don't know what happened with him and Deontay. I'm not alluding to that. that's between him and Deontay, and it'll be there forever. Deontay has a view. Mark has a view. I don't know what happened, and I'm not going to even get into that. But
I understand that.
I'm saying what I know about Mark Breland.
Of his character. Cool.
His character.
And that's all you can say. That's all you can say.
His character. Wait a minute. His character
is upstanding.
Is impeccable as far as I'm concerned. It's impeccable. I don't know. Maybe Deontay and Mark will meet again someday along the way. Maybe Deontay will look back on Mark the years past, and maybe he'll have a different view of Mark later on. You know, okay. I hope that they do. I hope that they do. But Mark Breland, Mark Breland is a stand-up guy. That's my opinion. That's my view of him. I've just never seen the guy angry. I just never seen him angry where he would do anything vile to somebody. But I don't know what happened.
Okay. What about, you've seen Wilder train so many times under Mark Breland. Now you've seen him training under Malik Scott. Mark Breland said that, you know, Wilder was difficult to train. Yet Malik Scott has gotten doing all sorts of things on the pads and everything. So you tell me what's going on there.
Say that again, please.
I said you've seen Mark Breland train Wilder for so many years. Malik Scott is coming now, and you're seeing Malik Scott make Wilder do things that you never saw him do under Mark Breland. Mark Breland was always viewed as a very good coach. Why are we seeing such things from Malik Scott, in your opinion?
Well, you gotta look at it like this here. Malik Scott was in a secondary role inside the camp those years while Mark Breland was training Deontay. So Malik Scott had time to sit back and observe the do's and don'ts of how to train Deontay. You know, what corners not to turn and what corners to turn. So when you have time to sit back and assess what somebody else's flaws are, then you can have yours correct when you come to the dance. Malik Scott is a former boxer, and now he's taking on the role as a trainer. And, you know, he's making a transition, and he knows Deontay. He knows what he's doing. Malik Scott has been in boxing for a very, very, very long time. When I met Malik Scott, he was a young guy, you know, a young, ambitious guy. And he's been in boxing probably since he was about 12, 13 years old. So he knows boxing. He knows the applications therein. A lot of boxers can't make the transition from boxer to trainer. But Malik Scott is one of those guys that sits back and he observes and he locks on to different things. And those things seem to benefit him. So I think that, yeah, that he's going to be all right. He's going to be all right. He's going to latch on and do a good job. I think that this is going to be an exciting fight. You know, I think it's going to be an exciting fight. But from my perspective, I think that I would have Deontay to get behind the jab and work the shake in between those jabs, because Tyson Fury is shaking. Tyson Fury is always shaking. He's always shaking. He's always doing that. Yeah. It's a smart thing to do. It's something that boxing trainers don't teach anymore. I've always advocated that to Vlad Serenko. I've always advocated that to Alexander Usyk. I've always advocated that to Shannon Briggs. I've always advocated that to Jamil McCline, Maurice Harris. I've always invited these guys and incited the fact in mind that you got to shake. You got to shake. You got to make the guy go for something that's not there, and then try to apply your skills. So Malik Scott, he's in a budding situation. If he wins this fight, that'll put him on the map, and I'll be glad for him. You know, I trained Malik, I think, for one, maybe two fights. Me and Malik have a relationship, and for the most part, Malik Scott always listened to me. He was always respectful to me. He was always very, very respectful to me, very, very humble. You know, I think that he's going to be all right. I think that's going to be a really good fight. I think it's going to be a short fight, but I think it's going to be an exciting fight.
Those punches around the back of the head, how much effect can that have on a fighter's career? Like, they haven't fought in 2 years. Would Wilder have made significant recovery for that?
Listen, those shots in the back of the head from a big guy like Tyson Fury can do damage down the road, you know. And this is something that, you know, oh man, it's just, they could do damage down the road. You have to be aware of those things, and they have to be stopped immediately. You cannot allow this to go on, you know, as far as a guy being in the ring and actually applying himself. You cannot allow that to go on. You have to stop that. You got to nip it in the bud. Whoa, whoa. This guy landing shots in the back of the head, because you have this young man, Cologne, you know, that's really messed up because of those shots in the back of the head. Cologne is messed up. You know, you get guys like that, and then you have the Abdul Salam up in Russia. He's messed up from taking different shots in boxing. So you gotta be able to see these things coming and abort them. I had a young man. I forget the young man's name, but I had a young man boxing Abdul Salam some years ago, and I think my guy got dropped at the end of the first round or the beginning of the second round. And I watched my guy get up off the floor, and later in the round, he got dropped again, and I waved the fight off. And there was somebody who had vested interest in the fighter in the corner. I said, no, I would wave it off. He said, no, don't wave it off. Let them go, you know? I said, no, I'm not going to let this go. I'm going to stop it right now. I stopped the fight, and the fighter came in the corner and said, I was all right. I said, yeah, but you wasn't going to be all right. I looked at how the shot was landing. The shots was landing on the chin, on the temple, and you didn't do nothing to try to slip, block, or do anything. And that told me that your equilibrium, that your attention span was gone. So I stopped it before something could happen. And then Abdul Salam's people came and said, you did the right thing because we were going to hurt him. The corner came to me and said, you did the right thing because our guy was going to hurt him. And I knew it. I saw the movement. I said, he's going to hurt this guy. So now the guy is, all these years later, I talked to him on the phone, and he's all right, and I'm happy about that. So I'd rather stop the fight too soon, leading back to Mark and Jay in the corner. I'd rather stop the fight too soon than stop it too late. So from their perspective, they were justified, you know. But I thought they would stop prematurely. And naturally, the people that's outside the ring is going to think that the fight will stop prematurely. But they're not in the corner. They're not observing the guy in the corner. So there's a case for and
Tyson Fury's punching power from the first fight to the second fight is by putting on more weight makes you a bigger or better puncher. Because in the first fight, he didn't do the things to Wilder that he did in the second fight. People say it's because he put on more weight. Your thoughts?
If he can put his ass, if he put his back, if he digs into the floor, he'll increase his power by 20%.
I know you mentioned that to me when I first met you.
All right, he'll increase his power by 20%. But anything over 20%, I don't believe that. I think that God gave each person power. He didn't give a certain amount of power. I've had heavyweights that hit the mitts, and I'll be saying, God damn, this guy is 6'8", 6'9", and the guy can't punch. And I say, throw the right hand. Just sit down on the right hand and throw it, and they throw the right hand. And in my mind, I'd say, this guy is a huge guy, but he can't punch. He can't punch. Here we are on the mitts, and I'm telling him, throw the right hand to try to knock somebody out, and I can't feel it. So punches, in my mind, are born. They're not made. You can increase the power a certain percentage, but I think anything over 20%, 20% is asking a lot. You know, I don't think that Tyson Fury is a big puncher, but I think with that added weight, he could be a dangerous puncher, and that punch landing in the back of the head is definitely a no-no. So they have got to be aware of that.
Okay, so you weren't alarmed. So you weren't alarmed from the first fight to the second fight, the way that as soon as Fury hit Wilder, the impact of the punches. You had no concern about that.
Say that again, please.
In terms of his punching power, from the first fight to the second fight, was it just the weight that made Fury a more effective puncher? Because in the second fight, he looked a more effective puncher.
Well, I observing the first fight, I saw Tyson was roughhousing Deontay. He was roughhousing him. You know, he was mauling him and brawling him and roughing him up. You know, which was a good strategy. I think that Malik has to get Deontay to move on his feet more, to build his endurance where he can move on his feet more and stay off of those ropes and stay out of those corners and be nimble. It wouldn't be above me to have Deontay to take ballerina lessons for this fight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to keep the fight in the center of the ring, to box.
You
don't want to get into no ball and brawl. You don't want to get into a crapshoot, throwing punches from the outside. And see, people get involved with training and stuff like that there, and they forget. You know, God rest Emmanuel Stewart's soul, you know. But Emmanuel Stewart and Frank Shirley, my very, very first teacher. I learned more working with these guys in my life than any other trainer. I worked with a lot of good trainers, you know, Sam Solomon, Carmine Graciano. I've had all these guys, Lee Black. I've worked with a lot of good, old, wise trainers. But I learned from Frank Shirley, my initial trainer, who I paid homage to, and Emmanuel Stewart. I learned more about strategy as opposed to training from Emmanuel Stewart. You know, he taught me the value of bringing in insight, using insight. Emmanuel, people don't know, Emmanuel would be on the phone and he would communicate with a lot of people in the wee hours of the night. 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. He would communicate with people, asking advice from other trainers. Eddie Futch, Gil Clancy, Angelo Dundee. People didn't know that, but I knew it because I've been with him. All right? The trainers of today is above them to enlist the knowledge of other trainers.
It's ridiculous. It's crazy.
You understand?
It's crazy.
It's crazy. Because in my mind, with the years that I have, God willing, I'll be 70 years old in shortly. But in my mind, the best reward for all research, if you're researching something about any particular topic of discussion, the best reward for all research is the history. Check the history. And that's what I learned from Emmanuel Stewart. Check the history. Emmanuel would call me in the wee hours of the night. And we'd be on the phone and we would be back and forth. We'd be arguing like cats and dogs. I said, oh man, you don't know. Get the fuck out. That's bullshit, you know? It's bullshit. You shouldn't have did that. You shouldn't have. Now you don't tell me what to do. You don't tell me. I know what I'm doing. You don't tell me how to do it. And we'd be back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for hours. And I said, man, you so goddamn stubborn. You don't even want to listen to what I'm telling you. I'm telling you something, man. They wanted him to work in a particular fighter's corner once. And I told him, I said, hey, man, you're Emmanuel Stewart. I said, you cannot stoop to a position where you come in and working in somebody's corner. Either you're going to be the advice giver in that corner or stay the hell out the corner. No, this is an opportunity. I need to be in there. I need to do this. I need that. I said, you don't need that. You're Emmanuel Stewart. Remember who you are. Stand your ground. If they don't want you in there as the lead trainer, then you shouldn't be there. And I'm telling you that there. You can make a fool out of yourself. But we were arguing like cats and dogs. And then Emmanuel, at the end of the conversation, which lasted about 4 hours, man said, okay, get a plane. I'm gonna make a plane flight for you. We're gonna have lunch tomorrow morning, then you can fly back to Jersey. So he made a flight for me to fly into Detroit. 3-4 hour flight. We did lunch, and about 6 o'clock that afternoon, I was back on the plane. I was back in Jersey, you know? And that's what I remember about him. We shared a lot of private moments together that people couldn't relate to. But we were brothers, you know. He was the big brother, I was the little brother. And he pissed me off a lot of times. He pissed me off. Oh, boy, Scott pissed me off. And I know I pissed him off a lot of times, you know. But we were brothers. When we came outside of the door, nobody would even know that we was in there fighting like cats and dogs. And when we came out that door, we was unified. Emmanuel called me up and said, okay, who we need to get in for this spawn? For Lennox Lewis, and for Vladimir Klitschko. Emmanuel called me and said, who we need to get for spawn? I said, we need to get this guy, we need to get that guy, we need to get this guy, that guy, that guy. He said, all right, that's it, it's done. We're going to get this guy. Yeah, Emmanuel would ask my advice on different angles, different perspectives. But today's
Smart guy.
trainer,
Can't do it. They won't do it. They won't do it.
The guy was super intelligent. He was super intelligent. There's not many guys that was as intelligent as Emmanuel Stewart. He's just a shrewd, intelligent
businessman.
guy.
He was a shrewd businessman. That's what he was. He was a shrewd businessman.
Yeah.
That's what he was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he did a very interesting thing that a lot of people don't pick up. What he did was he made sure he aligned himself with champions. He aligned himself with champions. He had the opportunity to train Audley Harrison. And he said no. Because he knew what was coming with Audley. He went, no, I'm not training you.
Emmanuel, I'd work with different people. People would hire me. And Emmanuel was selfish. Emmanuel would call me up. Huh?
Where you going? Where you going?
He'd call me up and say, where you at? I said, I'm in Miami. I'm working with this lady. She's got 3 fighters down here. You know, I'm getting paid every week and blah, blah, blah. He said, well, I'm going to tell you. He said that people in the business talking about you. You need to get the fuck out of there right away. Leave him alone. Leave that bitch alone. She's no goddamn good. people in the business are talking about you. You don't need to be down here. You need to be here in Detroit with me. And I said, Emmanuel, listen, this lady is paying me. I have a contract with her. He said, you signed the contract. He said, well, how much the bitch need? How much the bitch need? We pay her. We pay her. Yeah. Yes.
I can imagine. But you were his right-hand man. That's why.
Let me tell you something. We were in Jonathan Banks and Javen Hill are familiar with this here because I made them familiar with it. Emmanuel got pissed off with me in Miami, Florida. He was training Miguel Cotto. And at that time, I had introduced the thought to Emmanuel. I said, Emmanuel, why don't you let me manage you? He said, what? I said, why don't you let me manage you? Let me manage your career. He said, what do you mean? I said, let me manage the Kronk gym, your movements. Let me make the mandate for your flights, for the people you're going to communicate with, and try to correct the movement of the Kronk gym. But Emmanuel wanted to rule the Kronk gym with an iron fist. With an iron fist. All right? This is the way I'm going to run the Kronk gym, and nobody's going to interfere with it. This is my baby. So I said, okay. He won't listen to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my own, thus the birth of Precision Craft Boxing. Precision Craft International. That's what gave birth to that, because I couldn't get him to do what I wanted to do with the Kronk. So I said, okay. So Emmanuel called me to the gym, called me to his apartment one day in Miami. He said, listen, he said, you know, you need to stop wearing this Precision Craft sweatshirts and other paraphernalia around this training camp. I said, well, why? He said, because this training camp is a Kronk training camp. This is a Kronk training camp. And this is how I run it. And I don't want nobody interfering with that. I said, Emmanuel, with all due respect, you got people wearing Everlast, Adidas, Nike. Why can't I wear Precision Craft? He said, because it's a training organization, not a sporting organization. I said, well, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I can't do that. He said, well, you got to take us somewhere else. You got to get on a plane and get out of here. I said, okay, make me a plane ticket and I'm out of here. And the next morning, I was gone. Next morning, I was on a plane, gone. Javen Hill, Jonathan Banks, they can remember. They can remember. Because I had Jonathan Banks. I was training Jonathan Banks. And Jonathan Banks boxed Oliver McCall that day before I left. All right? So they're familiar with it. And I came down and I got in the car, and Javen Hill picked me up and took me back to my room, it was an apartment I had. And I told Javen what had happened. I said, look, I don't like what he's trying to do. He's trying to tell me what I can do with my organization. Precision Craft Boxing is my organization. He's not going to tell me what to do. So yeah, damn right, I get on the plane and go. I went back to New York. And Emmanuel Stewart called me up 3 days later. And these were his words to me. He said, God damn, he said, I don't give a fuck what you do. He said, you can wear your goddamn, you can wear your Kronk, you can wear Kronk, you can wear Precision Craft, whatever the fuck you call it. I just need you back down here because I got a bunch of motherfuckers around here that don't know nothing about training. I got a bunch of motherfuckers out here that don't know what the fuck they doing down here. I need a motherfucker I can trust. I got a motherfucker with vision. He says, so just bring your ass back down here. Get on the plane. Come on, motherfucker, I'll make a plane ticket for you tonight if you want that. He said, I said, look, just come back down here. And in 3 days, I was back in Miami, and I was wearing Precision Craft Boxing International. That was Emmanuel Stewart. That was Emmanuel Stewart.
I remember the
You
story.
know? Yeah. I gotta listen. I got 1,000 of those stories. I got a conglomerate. Jonathan Banks and Javen Hill were children when I came to the Crunk Gym. All right? They were children when I got there. So I got 1,000 of those stories before they even reached maturity, before they even reached manhood, before they even had their first girlfriend. I was there. Those guys know that I was there.
I think we need to do it. We need to do it an evening dedicated to the legend of Emmanuel Stewart through your eyes as his right-hand man.
I was his right-hand man. And he loved me. He loved me. I really believe he loved me.
I'm still baffled. Now, if Emmanuel Stewart was here today, everyone would be running to Emmanuel Stewart. Why are they not running to you? Yet you're his right-hand man. I don't understand it. It baffles me. Up to today, it still baffles me.
Listen, I was with the man every day, every week for 15 out of the 17 years. The first 2 years we were on and off. But then he said, "No." It was right after Lennox had to fight versus Vitali. And I got ready to leave California. Somebody came to the airport and said, "Wait a minute, Emmanuel wants you to stay." This is after Lennox and Vitali had fought. And I was at the airport. And the guy came and took my luggage. Said, "Look," I said, "I checked my luggage." And he said, No. Get your luggage, and Emmanuel wants you to stay here in California. And I came back. Emmanuel put me up in a hotel. He put me up in a hotel. I knew something was up because he put me in this hotel room that was big enough to be a basketball court. And I said, "Why you got me in this big place by myself?" Emmanuel said, "Just hang out with me for a couple of days." Emmanuel came back and he said, "Listen, I want you to come back to Detroit with me. I want you to act as one of my trainers inside of the gym. And you'll act as my confidant." I said, "Confidant?" He said, "What do you mean, confidant?" He said, "Well, from time to time, you'll be asked to divulge what's in your mind about a particular fight or particular fighter." And I came to Detroit. And from that point on, we were inseparable. And the first night I was there, he took me to some kind of R&B festival at a bar. And I sat there and I ate and hobnobbed with the people, the women, the men. And I said, "Well, where's Emmanuel?" And just 2 or 3 hours had passed and I hadn't seen him. So I didn't see him in the bar. So I said, "Well, where's this guy at?" So I called him. I said, "Hey, man, where you at?" He said, "Well, I'm home in bed." I said, "Emmanuel, how do I get back to the hotel?" He said, "Yeah, you at the hotel now?" I said, "No, I'm not at the hotel. I'm at the bar." God damn, he said, "I don't know. God damn, I forgot all about you." He said, "All right, I'm going to come down and pick you up." Left me at the bar. He had to come back to the bar to pick me up to take me back home. So this is the kind of stuff that he and I went through. Some of the stuff I can't even divulge. Some of the crazy shit that he did, One night he came and got me and said that his neck was hurting, his back was hurting. So I came to the room to put some Bengay and all this other stuff on him, muscle relaxants and stuff on him, and took some pills and stuff. And I left the sink on in the hotel room. Luckily, the bathroom had a drain where the water went down. I came back and that room, which I was in illegally, was full of water. It just about to seep into the room. but it was just about to run over and come into the room. But I had the drain where the water was draining out. Yeah, it filled up with water. So it can go on and on and on. But the moral of the story is that Emmanuel was wise, wise beyond any trainers that's out there today, you know. And I grasped onto that wisdom. I grasped onto that wisdom. And a lot of trainers that's out there now, they're not privy to that kind of stuff, you know. Even with the situation with Lennox Lewis versus Mike Tyson, you know, what he did with Maurice Harris. He told Lennox, and Lennox will tell you today, he said, I want you to pay this guy $5,000 a week to bring him into this camp. Lennox said, no, I don't need him. Maurice Harris doesn't represent Mike Tyson. He doesn't have the style. He's tall, 6'4". He's a slick boxer. He's not Mike Tyson. But Emmanuel's philosophy was that, yeah, but he's the only guy that can get Mike Tyson in shape to beat you. So I want him in this camp. I want to know where he's at all of the time. And he's not to leave this camp. You know, Maurice was a rambunctious person. He was a slickster. You know, Maurice was the kind of guy that'd get paid from Emmanuel and Lennox, and he'll fly to Hawaii and be with Mike Tyson and be getting paid from both camps. Yeah, this is the kind of Maurice. Maurice was a hustler. He was a shady dude, man. But Emmanuel and Lennox said, no. Ain't gonna be no leaving this camp. We gonna give you $5,000 a week. You sit your ass down in this camp and you don't go nowhere. Because they wanted to keep him away from Mike Tyson. They felt that if he worked with Mike Tyson, he would be the guy that make Mike sharp enough to beat Lennox. So that's what they did. They paid him $5,000 a week, and Lennox balked about him. Lennox said, "Hey, man, I'm not paying nobody no $5,000 a week to work in no damn camp. I don't need him.
I'm not doing that. I'm not paying that money. No way. I'm not paying that money.
But Emmanuel Stewart's philosophy was that, listen, you get ready to get $12-13 million. What is 5,000 for 5 weeks? Big deal. You get ready to make $13-14 million. Pay the man and bring him in his camp.
I'm not boxing him.
Huh?
I'm not boxing him. That's what Lennox would say to you. I'm not boxing him.
Yeah. Lennox made it clear, I'm not boxing him. Lennox wasn't enthusiastic about boxing Maurice Harris, period. Lennox Lewis will tell you, he wasn't enthusiastic about boxing Maurice Harris. He did it. One thing, Lennox was obedient and respectful of Emmanuel. Latimer was obedient and respectful of Emmanuel. When Emmanuel decided for them, they did. And
was there anybody who wasn't? Was there anybody who wasn't respectful of Emmanuel and turned rogue?
Yeah, you had fighters, Oberkar. Oberkar was one of those guys. Michael Moore. You know, Michael Moore, to a certain degree, Michael Moore got stubborn and bullheaded. You had fighters here and there that wouldn't do what Emmanuel said. When Emmanuel lost control, he would just say, they can go.
I heard a story that Emmanuel Stewart and Evander Holyfield, where he would say Evander wouldn't run. And, you know, when he was training Evander, it was difficult, he said. That's what the story was.
Emmanuel was shrewd, man. Emmanuel say, every morning I look out the window and I see which one of these fighters leave. Because all those fighters used to stand out. Andy Lee, Jonathan Banks, you know, a lot of guys used to stay inside Emmanuel's house. And Emmanuel said, I'd look out in the morning, 3:30, 4 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock, and I'd look out the window and I'd see who was running and who wasn't running. They think I didn't know who was running and who wasn't running. But I knew who was doing it and who wasn't doing it. You know, he said this person, that person is a businessman. He's not a fighter no more. He's got to go. I got to get rid of him. Oh, he would tell me everything, you know. He said, I've been watching out this window for the last 7, 8 days, and I haven't seen this guy show up. 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. He said, I'm a privy. Emmanuel used to wake up in the wee hours of the night and look out the window to see who was leaving the house to run, to go out and do their work. And a lot of those guys would do it, and Emmanuel would come back and tell me, this guy is doing it, and that guy is not. You know, he knew. He was wise, he was privy. And then sometimes Emmanuel would be in a training camp, and he said, all right, I'm going to go into New York for a couple of days. And Emmanuel would go and rent an apartment overlooking the training camp. And then he would be in that apartment and he would look down on the training camp and he'd see who was training on time, who was on time for this, who was on time for that. And he'd be like 5 miles away from the training camp, but he'd have a pair of binoculars and he'd be watching. And he'd call me and tell me that this guy has got to go. This guy's not doing this. This guy's not doing that. This guy's not doing that. Yeah, he was a shrewd guy. He was a businessman. I picked these things up from being associated with him. He said, beware of the people who are in the fighter's head. Always beware of them. You know, the road dogs, the guys that hang out with them, to go to lunch and dinner with them, the guys that's the gophers for the boxers. Go get me a woman. Go get me some drink. Go get me some heroin or cocaine or whatever it was that they would. Yeah. Emmanuel said, watch that guy. Be observant of him. You know, so I picked up a lot of things from Emmanuel Stewart that most guys didn't pick up, because Emmanuel wouldn't open up to everybody. He wouldn't trust everybody. You know? He said, I can trust you because you always tell me your position. And that's why I like you. Because I'll say, man, fuck that. That's wrong. You shouldn't do that shit. He said, don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me what to do, because I know what I got there to do. I said, I don't care, man, you're wrong. I would stand up to him and say, no, this is not right. That's not damn right. They had me and Jonathan Banks. We was somewhere in Switzerland or Sweden somewhere, and they had us stand in this dollhouse. It was like a dollhouse. I said, what kind of fucking room is this, man? I mean, we was in a little ass room, 2-room, man. I said, man, I'm going down here and complain about it. Jonathan wouldn't say nothing, because Jonathan was a young guy. He wasn't going to say nothing. I said, I'm going down here and straighten this out right now. Jonathan said, man, don't go down there messing with me, man. You know he's going to get upset. And this, I said, I don't care. I'm going down there and tell him. And Jonathan Banks can tell you right now, I went down there and I pissed the bitch. I said, man, what kind of room is that there for 2 grown-ass men to be in a room? I said, man, you kidding? I said, man, stand up for us and go in there and tell them people we got to have a bigger room and this and that. He said, God damn it, just leave me alone for a minute. I'm going to go down there and straighten this shit out. I'm going to straighten this fucking shit. Just leave me alone. I said, yeah, we'll go down and straighten this shit out. Jonathan Banks will tell you. When Jonathan Banks came into Vladimir Klitschko's training camp, Jonathan Banks had to live in a room with me.
Yes, I know. Stayed in the room with you. And Emmanuel still didn't want him for sparring.
No, Jonathan Banks, Emmanuel Stewart wanted him there. He wanted Jonathan Banks there. So he said, he came to me and said, you push Jonathan Banks off on Vladimir Klitschko as a sparring partner. You make Vladimir Klitschko understand that he needs Banks for a sparring partner. Vladimir Klitschko was getting ready to fight a lefty Castillo. And he said, listen, push Jonathan Banks off on Latimer Klitschko, make him believe in Jonathan Banks as a southpaw. And I did. I went to Latimer Klitschko and I told him, nah, this guy can do this guy can do that, this, that, this, that. He can do it. And I brought him in to the training camp in Spain, Mallorca, Spain. And that's how Jonathan Banks became a part of the Klitschko training camp, because he was able to stand up to Latimer Klitschko for those 5 weeks. All right. That's how he got in the camp, because Latimer resisted him initially. But I kept going back, saying, no, this guy can do it. He's got the right height. He got the right speed. He got the right everything we need. And Jonathan Banks lived in a room with me during that time. That's how he became a part of the Klitschko training camp. And Jonathan Banks is going to tell you that. You know, and he can't tell you different because it's the truth. All right? So a lot of stuff goes on behind the scenes that the fans don't realize. The fans don't have no insight to, you know? And nobody has. I saw something recently on Facebook saying that if you had a world championship fight, who would you have in your corner, Emmanuel Stewart or Eddie Futch? And I wrote on the Facebook comment thing saying, how could anybody really choose from Emmanuel Stewart and Eddie Futch, and they don't know them or anything about them or about their mindset going into a fight? So how could they really answer the question? You know, that was the question, and nobody ever came back and said nothing about it, you know, because it wasn't so. Some people might have an instance where they're with a trainer for 1 or 2 fights, but I was with trainers for many fights because I dedicated my life. I left the workforce many years ago. I said, I'm going to be a boxing trainer. And being a boxing trainer, I paid my dues. I missed weddings, funerals, anniversaries, birthdays. You know, I'm grateful and thankful that I'm good with my children, because a lot of parts of my children's life I missed because I was somewhere else in the world with boxing. So I'm thankful that I'm good with my children, you know, that they respect me as father and they show their love for me, you know, and they can't fake love. I know that it's love, you know, that I said, wow, I'm fortunate that these children still respect me and love me, because I missed a big part of their lives. But I dedicated my life to this here. So when I have a guy from a barber shop or from a recreation department or somebody from the basketball court trying to tell me what a boxer needs to do, I said, excuse me, how do you make your living? Well, I'm a lawn keeper. So I stake my life on what I do. I stake my life on what I do, and I paid for it. You understand?
Mm.
When you come and stick your key in the door and you can't get in the door because you didn't pay the rent, you got to go sleep in a car for 3, 4, 5, 6 days until you get the money to pay the rent. That's what you call being dedicated to work. So all these people that talking about their trainers and this and that, and they gonna tell me how to do it, and they've been in boxing for 10 years or 15 years. I tell them I've been in boxing for 52 years, and I staked my life on what I did. I've staked my life on it, and I paid my dues. You understand? I paid my dues. So don't tell me nothing about boxing until you stake your life on it. When you stake your life on it the way I've done, then I'll listen to you. When you don't do that there, what you do for work? Well, I'm a barber. Well, I'm a lawn keeper. I'm a wood craftsman. Or, you know, okay.
I'm a strength and conditioning trainer.
Yeah, I'm a strength and conditioning. So when you put your life on the line for what you do, you understand? Then I'll listen to you. If you can't do that there, then back off. I don't want to hear nothing about it because I dedicated my life to this here. That's why I'm resentful when guys come in and try to change the outlook. You're not who
Qualified
I
to do
am. You're not who I am. You haven't been down that street. You haven't dedicated your life to this here. Emmanuel Stewart, French Shirley are the outstanding people in my life, you know, which leads me back to the topic because I get very emotional about this, you know. Malik Scott, this is his first dance. It's a big dance, it's a heavy burden, you know, for him to come back and bring Deontay Wilder back to the championship. Javen Hill is skating on thin ice. He's got to come in and prove that the first win for Tyson Fury wasn't a fluke. You know, he's going to bring Tyson in big, heavy, strong, and try to force
Wilder back.
Wilder back, force him into seclusion, you know, where he can get the KO, where he can bang him. And I'm sure that the overhand right is going to play a big part of it. Try to land those punches in the back of the skull.
Tyson said he's going to run straight through Wilder. Can he do that? Is it possible, in your experience?
Yeah. Well, he's 300 pounds at 6'9". He can possibly do that, but not unless he receives a deterrent. A deterrent like a good punch in his mouth. A really good punch in his mouth. That'll slow him down.
Real good punch in his mouth.
Yeah. Deontay Wilder has the ability to do that.
Just whack him.
Yeah. He's got to throw the right hand straight. Deontay likes to loop the right hand. He's got to throw that right hand straight, but he's got to follow it with left hooks.
Left hook.
The left hook is a key punch in the fight. Because when Tyson is throwing his right hand, and it's a habit, it's not, they can hear what I'm saying right now, but it's hearing it is one thing, and changing it is another thing. If he throws his right hand, when he does throw it, his chin is straight in the air. Just look back at the film. Every time he throws the right hand, his chin is straight in the air. So when Deontay throws the right hand, he's got to follow it with left hooks because he'll catch that chin in the air. And if he catches that chin in the air, the left hook will put him down. A puncher is a puncher. He just hasn't used the right hand. He hasn't used the left hook. But if somebody, in this case, Malik Scott, implores him to use the left hand and tell him psychologically your left hand is as good as your right hand, you'll see the difference. You'll see it. I'm anxious to see this fight. I'm enthusiastic about it, and I think that Deontay Wilder stands a good chance. But Tyson Fury has a mindset, and he has an unshakable mindset, so that makes him dangerous. He's coming in at 300, 305 pounds, 310 pounds. You know, he's reckless. This guy is reckless. But like I said, a good stiff punch in the mouth, all right? Good stiff punch in the mouth will change all of that.
From Wilder to Fury.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Fury said a good stiff punch in Wilder's mouth will make Wilder revert back to his old ways, but that don't make no sense.
I think that if Wilder gets punched in the mouth, Wilder understands at the depth where he's at now, emotionally. Wilder's going to go out on the shield. Wilder's going to fight to the death because his life is on the line, and Wilder's going to come out that place, and you punch him in his mouth, he's going to get up, he's going to fight. Wilder's going to fight because he has to. He's in a place now where he knows that I can't lose this fight, and I'm going to roll the dice. So I doubt it. I think Wilder's going to fight. I think he's dead to fight.
Wilder come out like Tommy Hearns when he did against Marvin Hagler? Come straight out the gate, straight first round, bam out the gate, and jumps on Fury. Could he do that?
I think that it would be wise for Wilder to start the fight.
Jump straight on Fury, because Fury takes time to warm up. He gets nervous early.
It's not a deep science. It's not a deep science. Wilder has got to get behind the jab and work the jab. Don't worry about running out of gas. Don't worry about getting tired. You condition yourself, you condition your body and your mind, and don't worry about getting tired. Go out there and fight, because when you're tired, he's tired too. If you're working, he's going to be tired too. I tell that to Vlad Serenko all the time. You know, if he's breathing hard, I said, take a deep breath. I said, because he's feeling the same thing in the same way you're feeling. Get out there and fight. Get out there and fight. We're vying for the heavyweight championship of the world, so get up. You knew you was coming here, so get up and go out there and fight. Don't look for no favors in the corner over here. I'm telling you what to do, and you need to go out there and do it now. I tell Vlad Serenko that all of the time. Don't look for no buddy, no friendship in the corner. No. I'm going to give you advice, and you've got to go out there and execute. If you get dropped, knocked down, you take the 6, 7, and when you get 7, you get your ass up and you move back to the ropes and you rest your body against the ropes. But you get your mind ready to go out and fight. This is not no cakewalk. This ain't no daycare center. You got to fight. That's the advice that I'm giving to any fighter that's working with me. All right? All that Cinderella and Wonderland stuff, that shit don't work. All right? You got to fight. All right?
Cinderella and Wonderland stuff. Can you explain to me what Cinderella and Wonderland stuff is, please? And for many people, viewers.
Just go to the internet. Go to YouTube and, you know, get Cinderella and Wonderland. You'll find out what it's about. This boxing is an unforgiving sport.
Is it normal? Is it normal for a fight to have blood coming out of the ear? In your opinion, and your experience of boxing, and how many fights have you seen with blood come out of the ear?
Well, a lot of times you get those wide punches that collapse the eardrum and bust. You know, I've seen it before.
Okay.
Where he bleeds out the air, out the
Right.
ear. But I told you, he took a few blows behind the head, on the cranium, on the base of the cranium.
And the denting. And the denting.
Yeah.
Explain that. How many fighters have you known that's had dents in their head? Apart from, of course, Margarita when he fought Cotter, or Cotter when he fought Margarita.
That's the corner of Deontay Wilder. That's the corner, because they gotta have professionals there to go in there and stay there until they put their hands in the glove. And when that commission marks that glove, they know whether the glove been opened or tampered with or any kind of way. The person that goes in that corner, in that locker room, has got to take the wraps in his hand, smell the wraps, touch the wraps, and see if they're damp or have they been damp. Look at the condition of them. You can tell whether the wraps been washed and dried. You understand? You take the wraps, put it in your hand, smell it, let them watch the wraps being applied, then stick your hand in the glove, make a fist, do all the things that you need to do, what boxing is going to do, and then watch them until they wrap the tape on it. When the commissioner puts his wrap, and then look at the wraps inside the ring. Observe when the fight's over, go right to the corner of the opposite corner and look at those wraps to see if those wraps have been tampered with.
Bashir, do you remember Coach Chris?
Yeah.
He's in the room. Coach Chris, he spoke to you about, he was the one who was talking about Wilder Fury fighting in like he said, in December.
Okay,
that they're fighting in the summer of 2000. So he's in the room. I don't know if you want to talk with him, want him part of the show as well.
He doesn't, I mean, I can talk with him. It's not a problem. I can talk with anybody.
Okay.
On the subject of boxing, I can talk with anybody in the world.
Let's bring Coach Chris. If I can get Coach Chris in, I'm sure he'd love to be a part of the show. And that would be great because Coach Chris, I've just sent you a link. So if you want to come in, do feel free. So, what do you think Jay Diaz, because Wilder was, he also said he told Jay Diaz off. He wasn't happy with Jay Diaz. There we go. In comes Coach Chris.
Hey, hey. Afternoon.
You there, Coach Chris? What happened to your screen?
I'm right here.
What happened to your screen? Your screen is it looks like we're back in 1980. This I can't see the actual face.
Nah, man, I'm just actually I got like 10 minutes, 10 to 2 minutes. I gotta go train. I got a couple groups here, but I just wanted to jump on. I saw you was on, man. So you know, you got the coach on, you know, Coach Bashir on here. So I had chime in, man. Mr. Bashir, how you doing today?
I'm doing fine, thank God.
Man, amazing, amazing, amazing. I'm glad to hear it, glad to hear it. You know, the one thing, you know, like we've got the fight now, you know, and the thing, you know, a lot of people are upset about Wilder and not talking about the fight and, you know, not talking about the allegations of cheating anymore. For me, I think, like, you know, now that the fight's been made, there's no reason to go there and talk about anything. And just get back to training. And then I don't know if people noticed this, but if you look at, I think Malik Scott shared a video with Deontay Wilder. He was jumping rope, right? And everyone was talking about, well, his old manager, his old trainer said he didn't jump rope. But the one thing people aren't talking about is the fact that that place where he was jumping the rope is a completed building and he's next to the ring. So then when he showed videos of him working on his craft with Malik Scott outside in a boxing ring, that was the facility that he had built in his house. So that means that the videotape of him working outside in a boxing ring, that was months ago, because they've actually built a facility around the gym that he now has where he was skipping rope, right? What do you think of that mindset that Wilder has in right now? You mean, for the man to go completely silent? I mean, I don't know if, you know, people want to analyze looks on faces, but the way he was looking at Tyson Fury at that stare down, that wasn't boxing. That wasn't, because, you know, most of these face-offs, they're trying to generate that, right? That looked like, when I was a bouncer back in my day, that looked like, oh snap, he's about to hit him in the face with a bottle. Let me get over there and break it up before it starts. What do you think of the mindset of the man? Because whether the cheating allegations are true or not, we all have our own opinions and things like that. But Wilder is convinced he cheated, and he's not making that up. And he built a gym in his house to train for this fight, and it's been over a year. What do you think of his mindset? And I didn't hear you, you know, prior to this, but what are you thinking of his mindset? And like, skills aside, things aside, both fights prior to this were completely different. Chance of the third fight being different is also there. What do you think of his mindset? What do you think of his approach from the outside looking in? And what do you think of his chances of actually beating Tyson Fury July 24th?
Well, my mindset is that you have to be in a dog-like atmosphere. I remember years ago, I had a young fighter that was acting as a sparring partner for Marvin Hagler. And the boxer fought Marvin Hagler's brother on the undercard in Brockton, Massachusetts, many, many years ago. And I thought the guy beat Marvin's brother, but he didn't get the decision. In Marvin Hagler's training camp, I believe we were in Cape Cod. During that training camp, Marvin Hagler didn't want any kind of association with his family, his wife, his children, newspapers, any kind of information. He just wanted to be isolated in that training camp. In fact, he didn't even take phone calls. So I'm out of that mode. I think that when you deprive a fighter of the things that they're used to, it brings about a certain focus. So I want the familiarities taken away. I got Vlad Tsarenko, and I'm trying now, in my mind, I'm trying now to make a fight between Vlad Tsarenko versus Cash Ali on the undercard of Alexander Usyk versus Anthony Joshua. If I have my way, Vlad Tsarenko will box Cash Ali on that undercard. That's what I'd like to see. That's my efforts right now. But in doing so, if that fight comes about, then I want to come to UK to train Vlad Tsarenko. I want them to be familiar with those surroundings, take them away from the homegrown atmosphere. So I don't know about that. I don't know about training at home or building a gym in my house and stuff. I don't want that. I want it as difficult and as emotional as it can be, to let them know that this ain't no game, this ain't no cakewalk. We going to fight. So we got to just take away all the familiarities of home and comforts of home and things like that there. But I guess Malik Scott and Deontay Wilder know what they're doing, so who am I to say? But this is my way.
Yeah, I can completely empathize with that. Playing football, especially, I played years ago, and in those days, training camp was always away. Or at least in college, you move into the freshman dorm, you got a roommate. I never had a roommate in college. I never lived in a freshman dorm, even as a freshman. So it's like, like training camp, practicing 3 times a day. And it's like, man, like this sucks. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm in this little twin size bed. They got this freshman in a room with me. I don't have my fridge. I don't have my big bed. I don't have my house. My girlfriend can't come over. We got this curfew. We got to get up early. I got to eat breakfast. And it does change your mindset. I just think one of the things for Wilder, probably with not going away, I don't think he's ever really gone away. You know what I mean? Or he hasn't recently. So I don't think changing it completely up what they wanted to do. Because like for me, I don't really think he has to change all that much. You know what I mean? Like for me, I always just thought his footwork was his biggest culprit. That was the biggest thing for me, watching him fight and watching heavyweight boxing. The way he places his feet and the way he transitioned from offense to defense, that allows a boxer like Fury, who has more educated feet, always get that angle on him where he's in a spot where he can attack. And Wilder's always on the defensive against him, even though Wilder's the more dangerous fighter, just because of his footwork. You know what I'm saying? And like this footwork is something that you learn. It's like it's muscle memory. And it's probably one things that he may never get, if he can get it at all. But if he can just become like 5-6% better with his feet, with his balance, going from offense to defense, back and front, I think that'll make it that much harder for Fury to attack him and to be on the aggressive. Because in the first fight, Fury was fainting him, and it's like you watch the fight, you're like, well, why does he fall for the feint? He falls for the feints because Fury, even if he's positioned to throw a punch, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, I want to ask you this question, Coach, but you know, I'm gonna ask it, right? But I don't want you to feel like I'm attacking you. I just want your honest opinion, you know, because you've forgotten more boxing than I'll ever know. You know, I know boxing as a fan, you know what I'm saying, and watching it for years, but I've never been in a camp. I've never helped anyone get ready for a big time fight. Obviously, you have that experience in spades, you know what I'm saying? But I look at the injuries that he suffered in that fight and the way it happened, and it just screams out corruption and cheating to me. You know what I mean? And I know that we all want to, you know, because you're in boxing currently, you know what I'm saying? And like, you don't want to, you know, I know you're hyper vigilant with your fighters, obviously, to protect them in their best interests. But you don't want to, you know, me as a fan and you as a coach, we're going to have a different perspective because you don't want to think that this is something that's rampant in the sport that you're in, right? You don't want to think that someone that professes to be good actually is, you know what I mean? Like, just is a perspective thing, right? Like, I wouldn't want to hear about some kind of cheating scandal in football if I was involved in that league, because it would make the league seem like, well, what is this? You know what I mean? But, you know, we all saw what happened with Cotto and Margarito. We all saw what Cotto's face looked like after the fight. And, you know, we got to understand that these are grown men. And Wilder, even though he started at 22, he's been fighting for a long time now, like at the professional level, at the highest level. He's been punched in the face before. He's been hitting the ribs. He's been hitting the arms, shoulders, all that kind of stuff. I think we're not giving these boxers the credit they deserve. That when someone says something was off on the night and something was wrong, and then you have the evidence that supports that, I'm just wondering, what is it about boxing, whether it's the community or, you know, the culture of the sport, that would allow us to not take it seriously? Because in every other sport, when cheating is out, deflating footballs, you know? We had the referee scandal in the NBA.
I think,
you know,
that if there is evident, there's comparable proof to bring Tyson Fury up on charges. They did not do that. They did not do that. So as far as I'm concerned, it's just hearsay because nobody attacked the truth. Nobody brought the truth to the light. So you have to somehow ignore that there and concentrate on the task at hand going forward. All right? Deontay said there was some hanky-panky going on, and perhaps there were, but nobody attacked it. Nobody made sense of it. Nobody brought him up on charges. So that's just whistling in the wind. We got to concentrate on the task at hand. I wouldn't even have Deontay Wilder concentrating on what was. I'd have him concentrate on what is. You know, you can say potentially Deontay Wilder is the guy that's going to win the fight. But we know that we don't live off the potential. We live off the actual. We don't live off the ideal. We live off the real. So these are the things we have to go forward with. Malik Scott, Deontay Wilder, Javen Hill, Tyson Fury, they got to go to the lab and they got to come up with a remedy, a chemistry to go out and win the fight. So everything else is just whistling in the wind to me, you know.
Right.
You said it was corruption. Yeah, probably was. But that's the corner's fault. That's the corner's fault. Nobody's doing nothing. You know what I'm saying?
We agree there.
I went in every corner, and every time somebody had to be examined before they fought Vladimir Klitschko, I was in that corner. I was in that locker room. You know what I'm saying? As annoying as it might have been, I even got roughed up a couple of times in the locker room with the people that want me and they push me around, bully me around. Say, I'm just here to just check the reps. That's all. Please, just let me do my job and I'm out of your way. you know, and that's what the whole thing is about. Concentration on that gloves and those wraps. That's all I want to do. Once I do that deal, once that tape goes on the gloves, then it's a fight.
Coach, I got one more question for you, and then I'm gonna let you guys continue with the show. I'm just so thankful that you're able to answer my questions. I'm really appreciative of it. You know, we talked about you being in the corner and being in the locker room with the wraps and the gloves and things like that. And obviously, you know, you're doing a great job looking out for your fighters. But as a professional, you know, I played professional football and college football, and I think the one thing that keeps boxing on the fringes and keeps it from being a bigger, because boxing's a big sport, right? It's a big sport, but I think what keeps it from being on the cusp and being a major, like one of the major 4 or 5 sports in the United States is the lack of a league and the lack of a nationwide commission. Because to me, I think somebody like you, if you're not busy July 24th, why aren't you the acting commissioner to make sure that the gloves are the way they're supposed to be? Why aren't, I mean, I don't know if there are enough boxing people in boxing behind the scenes with these things like this, because the fighter safety really should be the most important thing, right? Because it's such a dangerous sport that you would think that rules regarding safety would be of the highest level, like higher than football, higher than rugby, higher than hockey, all those sports, because those sports are dangerous, but they pale in comparison to the danger that you step into in a professional boxing match. And I just want to know what your thoughts are and what can be done to get people like you that know the game. Like, I mean, what would it cost to fly you out to Vegas to have you look at the wraps and like? I'm just wondering, because you know what I mean. Like, everyone's got all these different types of gloves and stuff. Like, why aren't there like 4 gloves you can use? You know what I mean? Like we need some regulation in this sport. I mean, as there's more money involved, and there's always people around that we wish weren't, but as more money is involved in the sport.
I'm working in a state with Larry Hazard.
That's the man. Larry Hazard is the man.
Larry Hazard is perhaps
He's the man.
One of the greatest commissioners in
of all time.
The sport of boxing ever.
Absolutely. Ever. Absolutely.
All right. I'm working in a sport where Larry Hazard is uno numero. And I'm not saying that just because we're from the same state. He's a guy that understands boxing. He's been in boxing. He was a Golden Glove champion. He even fought in the same Olympics with amateur boxing with Emmanuel Steward. So Larry Hazard is a guy that's been in the commissioner's seat in boxing for a long, long time. And he understands the sport. He could regulate the sport and make the sport better. All right. I think that if there was ever a czar who was commissioned to be in the seat of czar, Larry Hazard would have to be amongst the very few people who would be capable of conducting a thorough commissionership. He would be the guy. So that's my point of view. All right, that's in my opinion. He's the best. All right, the best guy, the most qualified guy, the guy who's been there in the ring and out of the ring, and he's been in there with some major fights, major judging, every aspect. Larry Hazard is the guy. He's the guy. He's the guy that needs to be there. He's the guy that needs to make the rules and regulations regarding the overall state of boxing in the States anyway. I would think it's beyond my control, but they need a czar to overlook this. A czar that's not going to be corrupted by the powers that be. When you have czars or commissioners that can be corrupted by the powers that be, then you're right back to square one. Larry Hazard is not the kind of guy that you're going to corrupt. All right? I know I've had experience with him for many, many years, and he's the guy that's going to be in the driver's seat as far as I'm concerned. He would be the guy to go to. The go-to guy in boxing would be Larry Hazard.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Coach. Hey, I got to run. I appreciate you having me on. I'm going to listen in here for a little bit before my session, but thank you so much for having me on, Ingram. It was great talking to you. Coach, always a pleasure, sir. Always a pleasure. And you gentlemen have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate
No problem.
Thank you for that, Uncle Bashir.
Larry Hazard is the guy. I'm telling you, Larry Hazard is the guy. You know, Larry Hazard is not going to take no shit from nobody. All right? Nobody's going to push Larry Hazard around.
Okay.
He's going to tell you his mind. He's going to tell you the do's and don'ts. So that's my opinion. If there's ever a czar, which they need a czar, an overall czar in boxing, you understand, that's effective throughout the world.
So, if you were in Wilder's corner for this rematch, and Wilder had one job for you to do,
Excuse me.
One job.
Somebody's at my door. Wait 1 minute, please. Please.
Okay. Sure.
Entertain the people till I come back.
Sure. Okay. Well, am I? Wait, what's Uncle Bashir? I don't get. Oh, this myself. Get myself back. Okay. So Uncle Bashir at the moment is going to check who's at the door. It might be the staff. While you're at it, if you're liking the show, like, subscribe, and share this video as well. Look, get your questions into Uncle Bashir, and let me know. Just put your questions up there. We will get all your questions answered tonight. We've got Uncle Bashir in for a while, so I'm trying to drag some other people into the show tonight to surprise Uncle Bashir as well, but they don't seem to be around. But I'm trying to get other people in the show as well. It's just one of those nights where you just feel you can pull other people in as well. All the people I want to pull in have all gone missing. Let's see what it says here. So, boxing needs to be run by some sort of mafia or rough and tumble body that behaves like a mafia but is universal. This stuff with belts and everything will get resolved. And it certainly would get resolved. But that would mess up a lot of people's cash flow as well. You understand, all the people that are corrupt, that's a business for them. So if you're doing that and you're messing around with mafia money, and the mafia money could be quite deep in boxing, the reason why probably there isn't a commission like that is because the boxing is so corrupt, it's unbelievably corrupt. What if Vlad Tsarenko's going to knock at the door? We need modern fighters with 50 style Italian Irish mob mentality and bureaucratic structure. Then we'll get the fights we want. I'm hoping it's Vlad Tsarenko in the house with him. How are you guys enjoying it? Guys and girls enjoying the show? Please do let me know as well how you're enjoying the show. Ingram, I notice you still haven't thought over the question of your comebacks. I'll come back to you on that one. This is a great show. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I really am. I'm glad you're enjoying it, and I hope that you're not only that you're enjoying it, that it's education for you all as well. You know, I love sitting there and listening to some people shit. Just waiting to see if we can get. Try and drag other people on the show. Let's get them to respond. Is what it is. I'm trying to surprise Uncle Bashir actually with a certain individual there.
I'm back.
Uncle Bashir's back. Was that the Gestapo? Did you get a knock at the door?
No, just I'm making a little too much noise. It's 1:30 in the morning here, so I was getting too excited.
Oh, wow.
My neighbor just came over, nicely asked me in the
Shut
Ukrainian
the F
language. In the Ukrainian language, you know, they said, hold it down, Jack.
Okay.
In the Ukrainian language, they said, hold it down, Jack. We're sleeping over here. Go ahead. We good though. These are nice people.
Okay. So in your experience, people are talking about the glove that Fury's having and how floppy it was. In your 50 years of boxing experience, have you seen gloves like that before? Or is that something that's been hugely propagated? Tell me.
Like I said, that needed to be confronted at the time of the stoppage of the fight. Somebody from the Breland corner should have brought the commission's attention to the gloves right then and there in the ring. Many years ago, the Panama Lewis situation, those gloves were attended to right then and there on the spot in the ring. They say, wait a minute, these gloves don't have no padding. You understand? They attacked the situation right then and there. Because they didn't do that in the Wilder's corner, it means nothing. It's just a lot of innuendo, a lot of assumption that goes nowhere. The assumption goes nowhere because nobody attacked the situation. So we just...
But, and it's a big but, and I have to spin back. When I first spoke to you about this situation, about the gloves and the stuff, the accusations that Wilder was making, you kind of looked at it and kind of said, it's all BS. Now talking to you in 2021, your opinion seems to have changed somewhat to be more, maybe there was some foul play, or possibly there was some foul play.
No,
As before, it was quite dismissive.
Even then. But it all boils down to the same mindset that I had then. It means nothing because nobody addressed it. Nobody attacked the situation in the ring, and that was the time to do it. And because they didn't do it, they let an opportunity slip past to prove that there was some corruption.
So wait, okay. So let me come at you from another angle. Do you have enough reason to doubt that fight was on level playing field from the start? In your boxing experience, can you categorically say no? Tyson Fury's innocent and Deontay Wilder's full of excuses. Can you say that in your 50 years of experience in boxing?
In my position, I can't say yay and I can't say nay because
that means there's doubt. Then that means there's doubt. That means not. If I ask you a question,
I can't say yay. In a big fight like that, there was so much money involved. There could have been a conglomerate of people that were involved in some corruption.
Aha! So you're all saying there's a possibility there could have been corruption?
Sure, there's a
aha! Right.
There's a possibility.
Let me throw this at you. Because you're also a historian of the sport, yeah? Rocky Marciano, that 49-0 record, Larry Holmes tried to get close to it, and you saw what they did with Larry Holmes, SPENCE. Mike Tyson tried to get to that, Buster Douglas. Anthony Joshua was trying to inch his way, get his way there. Look what Joshua did when he came over, and he went back to the corner. Why am I feeling like this? Wilder was getting close to that Marciano record, and look what they did to him. It seems anybody that wants to get close to that Marciano record, it's like a curse. Something goes on in their heavyweight division. Now, am I onto something? Am I just paranoid, or is it something with that Marciano record in their heavyweight division?
I think a lot of times that the athlete themselves do themselves in. But something that they do, something that they say, or their actions, you understand? I think that with Vlad Tsarenko, he's a young man, and I tell Vlad, he sometimes he'll make reference that, well, I could lose this fight if somebody does this or that, or I don't want to be in a position where I said, listen, don't think about loss. Then the common phrase is that, well, everybody loses one. I said, no, you don't have to lose one. You can go undefeated to 60-0. He said, is that possible? If you believe it's possible, then it's possible. You have to prepare yourself, body and mind, for the ruggedness of the profession
Mind and
that
soul.
you're in. Yes. You know, you're going to have young upstarts, guys that's going to be younger than you. They're going to come in trying to make a statement against you. It's the guy that has the steel mind that says, I got to prepare for what I'm getting ready to be in with. I've got to avoid women during the training. And when I say avoid women, I mean sexually, I mean emotionally, I mean mentally. I mean, you got to avoid them. You got to cut them off. You got to go to a place where normal human beings are not willing to go. All right? Normal human beings are not willing to go. And when you put yourself in that place, it's a difficult mindset to beat. It's a very difficult mindset to beat. That's the kind of trainer that I am. That's the kind of teacher that I am. I'm from the old school of boxing, and I know what it takes to get there. But the fact of the matter is, are the boxers willing to go there? You understand? Are they willing to go there? If they're willing to go there, then they give themselves the best chance of winning without being defeated. I'm trying to make Vlad Tsarenko that guy that can't be defeated. The guy that gets up when he's down, the guy that's going to fight through pain, the guy that's going to fight through fatigue. And I remind them all the time, so listen, your life is on the line, so go out here and do what I'm asking you to do. I thought that Vlad Tsarenko was being too friendly with his sparring partners in the last camp. And I called to his attention. He got a little agitated with me, but that's expected. That comes with the territory, you know. I said, look, would you friends with the guy? He said, what do you mean? I said, go out and fight. Try to put the guy on his ass, man. Well, I don't want to do it. I said, you got to do that. You got to do it. This is what makes the champion. I said, you know what I got to do? I got to get you in a Derek Chisora training camp. Because Derek Chisora will try to take your head off.
Head off.
You understand? Derek Chisora is one of the guys in boxing that understands the language of boxing. When we in that ring, you better do what you better do. Otherwise, I'm going to put you on your ass or I'll knock you out. You understand? Derek Chisora is going to extract the best from any human being that's in that ring. I've seen him spar and he doesn't play. And I like that kind of sparring because it keeps the boxer on his toes. It keeps the boxer on his toes. That's the kind of sparring you need. That's why I'm looking at this fight. I'm hoping and praying that this fight with Cash Ali is made for the undercard of AJ versus you know who.
Your boy.
Yes.
Or your ex-boy.
If
you might want to disassociate with him after the night, depending on how he looks.
Look, you know, I'm friends with Alexander Usyk. You know, I'm friends with Alexander Usyk, and he understands me. I understand him. All right, but like I said, I'm emotionally involved with AJ. I'm emotionally involved with Usyk. I'm expecting a good fight, but my concentration, my life work is invested in Vlad Tsarenko. Vlad Tsarenko, because I believe that he's the guy. I believe he's the guy that can go forward. I believe that he can be an outstanding fighter inside the next 18 months. So I want this fight with Cash Ali. I want to fight him. I want Vlad Tsarenko in that ring with Cash Ali on the undercard to Usyk versus AJ.
Okay.
It's going to be a good night of boxing, and I think that that kind of fight, that kind of pressure, that kind of atmosphere will bring out the best in the fighter that I'm training now, and that's Vlad Tsarenko.
I hope so.
So I think that he needs to embrace what I'm telling him, you know, because I'm pointing out logistics about boxing that I'm sure that nobody in boxing is privy to right now. That nobody in boxing is privy to right now. And I'm taking pride in it because I learned from the old school trainers. I know what it takes to get there. But is the fighter, is the principal willing to go there? That's the big thing.
That's the big thing. As we close for tonight, Spence versus Pacquiao. Oh, before that, Vladimir Klitschko comeback versus Shannon Briggs. Is that hogwash or is there truth in that? Thought I'd ask you.
I haven't heard anything from Vlad. We talked a couple of days ago. He didn't make mention about it. I didn't make mention about it. You know, Vladimir Klitschko is very capable. And I wouldn't be the guy to promote him coming back if I didn't think he was capable. But Vladimir Klitschko never stopped training. He's always been in condition. He's a conditioned guy. I've seen him here in Ukraine on numerous occasions, and he's in good shape. I've seen him box 8 to 12 rounds with 3 different sparring partners here as recently as 7 months ago. So I don't think that he's so far away from it. I think that he's capable. I think that in the atmosphere that's present in the heavyweight division, I think that he stands a good chance. Even at 45 years old, if you look at him, if anyone looked at him right now, and you told the person that this guy is 45 years old, they would say, no, he's a specimen of a fighter that's ready to fight. So I think that Vladimir Klitschko stands a great chance of becoming the heavyweight champion of the world again.
Really?
Yeah. I listen.
Come on, Uncle.
I'll tell you what's in my heart. I'll tell you what I believe from my mind's eye.
Okay.
And I've been president here in Ukraine at the training center. All right, at the different places in this city.
Yeah.
You know, I've been there and I've seen him box young guys, including Alexander Usyk. I've seen him box these guys.
Can you clear that rubbish up about what Johnny Nelson said? Because Johnny Nelson said that he had Vladimir Klitschko on his head, but I've seen nothing in Alexander Usyk in his heavyweight debut or his last heavyweight fight to say that he was out boxing Vlad and he had Vlad on his head. That's what Johnny Nelson keeps telling people, that Usyk was out boxing and had to shut the camp down because Usyk was beating him up. I don't believe that for 1 second. Sorry, the biggest load of hogwash I've heard. But can you sort that? Can you clear that for me, please?
Well, in my opinion, you know, anybody can do good when there's no pressure. All right. You can have a good day, you can have a bad day, you can do a whole lot of things in a training camp. But when the big lights come down, that's when it matters the most. I've seen people in training camps look terrible. Muhammad Ali would look terrible in a training camp. Matthew Saad Muhammad would look terrible in a training camp. The sparring partners would beat their asses. But when the big lights came down, when it mattered the most for the record, then you saw the champ come out. So different strokes for different folks, different times of.
Vladimir Klitschko can come back every day of the week and I'll turn the TV off. Vitaly Klitschko comes back and you got me interested. That's the brother that needs to come back.
Well,
if Vitaly comes back, he'll become heavyweight champion of the world again. Now we're talking.
Let me point something out to you.
Yeah, come on, talk to me.
Sometimes age makes the best in a fighter come out.
Yeah, that's true.
When a fighter ages, he's slower and he's more dependent in his technique than he is in his thinking and technique than he is in his physical attributes. Mm-hmm. So you force a guy, a puncher, mind you, not puncher with one hand, but puncher with both hands. He can punch. That's the key to Vladimir Klitschko. He's a puncher with both hands.
And if he didn't mess around with Joshua, he'd be world champion again.
Well, that's water under the bridge now. We're not even talk about that. What I'm telling you is that when you force a guy like Vladimir Klitschko, here's a guy that says, okay, I want to come back to boxing, but I don't want to come back for a career. I just want to come back and win the championship. I want to come back and make a statement. So now you got a guy that's less apt to be moving around the ring. All right. We understand that time works on all things. All things in creation, time works on those things. The leaf on a tree, the blade of grass, and the human being. And we're not who we are now. We're not what we were yesteryear. When I was 25, I felt like I was going to be 25 forever. You understand? When I was 39, I felt like, well, I can maintain this. Then when I got 49, I said, shit, man, this thing is hard. It's difficult. Then when I got 59, I said, yeah, man, I don't know about this. Then when I got 69, I said, man, I don't want no problems. Then I get knocked in the head. Boom, the guy knocked me in my head. Knocked all my teeth out, knocked my head. And I'm fortunate to have survived that. But I know now that I am not what I am at 69, what I was at 29. Because time works on all things. So now if I got to a boxing confrontation, I would rely more on my mentality and my attributes. My attributes is and have always been that if I can land a punch, I can knock this person out. If I can land 2 punches, they're definitely gone. You know, I was never a real slick boxer, but I knew how to box. You know, I got carried away. I was drugged by the power of the punch. I've got so many results from the punch. So it took away from my boxing skills, and I relied, if I can just hit him, if I can land on the neck, if I can land on the chin, if I can land on the temple, I can knock this person out. Vladimir Klitschko is that kind of guy, but he's an educated boxer. So yeah, I would ride with him. I've talked to him 9 out of the 10 times I talked to him. I said, all right, when you coming back? Let's get busy, man. Let's get busy. And he said, listen, I'm in the gym every day. I don't want to talk to you about that. You know, Vladimir doesn't want to talk to me about it. But I keep telling him, you can come back and you can win the heavyweight championship a 3rd time. In the atmosphere that's out there, you can come back and win the heavyweight championship. And I keep imploring, come back. Do it now. So now
Klitschko versus Trevor Bryant.
Knockout. He knocks out Trevor Bryant. Trevor Bryant Klitschko knocks him out.
That's what I'm saying. You see, that WBA belt Klitschko can have back.
Look, Klitschko,
And that's a lot of money for Trevor Bryan.
Yeah. Stacy McKinley knows. He knows that Vladimir Klitschko would knock out Trevor Bryan. You can call Stacy and tell him I said so. Vladimir Klitschko would drive through Trevor Bryan. Trevor Bryan haven't forgotten about the whooping that Vladimir put on him when he came into training camp.
Ooh,
Believe me, Trevor Bryan haven't forgotten that whooping. All right?
I'm sure that story will come out somewhere, maybe a year from now, and they'll tell it's breaking news.
Tell Stacy I said shut up.
You know what I need to do is get you and Stacy in the same room together. Now that is fire nice. I'd have that. I definitely have that.
Yeah, you can do that, and I'll tell him. Vladimir Klitschko will slap Trevor Bryan in his face and knock him out for the heavyweight championship of the world. If he wanted, we can make it happen. All right.
Now, you've completely swerved, like the politician you can be. You completely swerved the Vitaly Klitschko question or point.
Vitaly Klitschko is the mayor here in the Kiev, Ukraine.
So,
And
Manny Pacquiao's the senator in the Philippines.
I don't think that he's interested in boxing right now. But if Vitaly wanted to, he could come out.
I'd rather watch him come back.
He's in good shape. He's in good form. Good shape. You know, I'd like to see him come back too.
What about Lennox Lewis? There's rumors he's going to fight Tyson in September.
I don't think Lennox is interested in boxing no more. I just don't think that he's interested. I think that he's had his full of boxing. But I think that he has the same mindset. I think that he has the same longevity. I think that he has the same work ethic, just slower, you know. I think that Lennox can come back and do a good job too.
Mike Tyson.
Mike is all over the place. I don't know what's on Mike's mind, you know. Mike is a little guy. He's a little old guy. Slow, predictable. He could be hit. These big guys would hurt him.
You know, Jake Paul was talking about he would like to fight Mike Tyson and saying he could beat Mike Tyson. And his team
is trying to make money. He's trying to make
his team.
Money.
His team said, "Keep quiet, leave that alone."
Mike could break Jake Paul's neck. Get out of here. Paul is trying to make money. I go up, I'll stand up for a couple of minutes, I get knocked out and make millions of dollars. I understand what he's doing, you know. And
Mike will hurt him. Mike will hurt him. Mike will hurt him.
Paul is just going to lay down and get the money, go home and say, I duped all these people.
Okay, fair enough. I asked you a question. I asked you about the Charlo fight, didn't I?
Yeah.
What did you make of the Charlo fight last weekend?
He was in a struggle with a good fighter, not a great fighter, but a good fighter. Mm-hmm. He did what he had to do. Sometimes you got to look at the psychic of the fighter too. This is not what Charlo wants. Charlo wants the big names. So it's somewhat of a psychological letdown, which fighters cannot afford. That's what gets fighters beat. You've got to find a way to get up for every single fight. Every single fight, you got to find a way, you know. You can't be relaxed and say, oh, this is not the guy I want, so I'm not up for the fight. No, when you got to fight, you got to prepare for the fight. That's why he didn't look as good as he might have looked. Right?
Yeah.
But you know, you got to look at his angle too. He said, if I look bad, then maybe they'll take me now. You know, so it could be a ploy or whatever the case might be. It could be some kind of a ploy, but you can't look good. You got to look good every single time. He should have blew this guy out of there, and I think he was capable of doing it. He just wasn't mentally into it, socially into it, you know, spiritually into it, you know. So it hurt.
What about Pacquiao versus Spence? I think Pacquiao's got a good chance of causing the upset if Spence ain't careful.
I like Pacquiao in a brutal, tough fight. And I'll give you my logic for choosing Pacquiao off the air. I don't want to say anything on the air. Off the air, I'll give you my logic for taking Pacquiao, but I chose Pacquiao in this fight.
I pick Pacquiao too, although I'm very close to Derek James. I love Derek James. I love the brother, but Pacquiao's speed and movement.
Look, the key in this fight is for Pacquiao to keep Spence turning.
Don't allow him to set his feet.
Not allow Spence to sit down on his punches. Pacquiao is good for that. He moves here, he moves there, he's in, he's out, he's over here, he's over there. Even at 42 years old, I'm amazed by his ability. I'm gonna tell you something. If Pacquiao wins this fight, then he deserves in a room in heaven, the same room that Muhammad Ali and Ray Robinson lives in. Because Muhammad Ali and Ray Robinson has reserved a room in heaven specifically for those two guys. Pacquiao will enter that room with a win over Spence. And I think that he's capable of doing it. So I'm riding with Pacquiao via decision or split decision. And
one final thing before you go. Edgar Berlanga, someone who I've had on this channel more than once. The big puncher, the first fight he had, he went the distance. And I'm very hesitant in terms of calling him the next world champion. And I thought that he's a big puncher, but I'm not sure if you can take it. A lot of big punches, you see them blowing all these guys out, but their ability to take a punch is not the greatest. And my feeling behind
Have you ever noticed that the big punches in history didn't take a good punch, and the light punches in history took a great punch? Do you ever notice that?
Yeah, because I always thought that the big punches were always the ones that left themselves going for the big, left themselves open.
I attribute that to God giveth and God taketh away.
Taketh away.
You get these guys that can't punch, but they can take a great punch. And then you get the guys that can punch that can't take a great punch. I said, why is that always the case? If you look back in history, you'll find that a lot. The great big punchers can't take a punch, and the guys that can't punch can take a punch. So Edgar is a good puncher, but we haven't seen him in with good punches.
I just saw him today with a good puncher, and the good puncher put him on the deck. He was going in, winging, the guy just kept him short. Bang! Dropped Edgar. Was dropped onto one knee. I was like, Now his team will look at that and go, keep him away from big punches. Watch it. They'll swerve his career now. Now he got dropped in sparring like that.
I always relate to my young student, Vlad Serenko. This is the guy that I'm investing my mindset into. And I implore him over and over again to listen to what I'm telling him. And it will fare him well going down the road in boxing. because I always warn him that going down the road, you're going to meet better, tougher, more experienced, more technical boxers. And that's what I'm trying to prepare him for, to listen to what I'm telling you. I love Blaserenko because he listens to me and he tries to do what I ask him to do. That's one of the big things that stands out to me in his life, in his career. He tries to do what I ask him to do. When I sent him out there, I said, look, I want you to do this and keep trying this. Don't get away from this. Please do this here. And he tries. Yeah, I get on his nerves sometimes. I get on everybody's nerves. But I'm looking for perfection. You know, nothing is never good enough for me. I'm saying, you won the fight, but you could have done it better. You could have done it in shorter time. You could have did this. You could have did that. And I know it frustrates sometimes. He could frustrate him sometimes because he says, "Oh, this guy don't never be satisfied." No, I'm not satisfied. When I'm satisfied, then that means we've reached the roof on what we can do. I want to go beyond the roof. I want you to win the heavyweight championship, and I want Vladimir to smack Stacy's boy around. Trevor Bryant remembers that ass whooping. He remembers what Vladimir Klitschko did to him. He remember that. You know,
You're wicked. You're wicked.
Yeah.
I'll tell Stacy. I'll tell Stacy. I'll text Stacy down and tell him.
Tell Stacy, bring your guy up there. I tell him he can call for Vladimir Klitschko. Vladimir Klitschko will come in and slap Trevor Bryant around. Stacy knows what's coming to him. I like to see that. Or he can take the first Ukrainian fighter. He can take Blaserenko. Blaserenko's got 17 fights with 14 KOs. We can take Trevor Bryant right now, and we let Blaserenko slap him around for the heavyweight championship.
So you think that you think Blaserenko could beat Trevor Bryant right now?
I'm sure. I believe in my heart that he can beat Trevor Bryant right now. Trevor is a good fighter.
Yeah.
But that's good, not great. Good. So I think that Blaserenko can slap him around right now. I think Blaserenko can get Trevor Bryant out of there right now. So tell Stacy,
I have someone else I'd like to introduce you to, another boxing trainer. He did a lot of the amateurs in the UK, Dubois, Anthony Yard, and quite a few others. I just want to, if I can get that connect with you tonight as well, that would be really nice to end the show if the person can make the connection in the next couple of minutes. If they don't, then fine, we'll have to do it another time.
Come on.
Let's just let you know very quickly. And this man would be a good go-to for when you come to the UK. He'd be a very good go-to for you. Apart from myself, he'd be a great go-to for you in terms of amateur and professional boxing. I'm just hoping he'll come into the room. And if he can come into the room, it would be amazing.
I want this fight with Blaserenko versus Cash Ali. I think it's a good fight for both guys. I think that they could establish themselves in the heavyweight division.
Reverend says, Blaserenko looks like he's been managed very well. He's a good teacher. He's got a great teacher in Bashir.
Thank God that I'm being recognized for it. Some people toil a lifetime and never get recognized for their efforts, you know.
Does Bashir think he could see an undisputed heavyweight champion in his lifetime?
With the organizations that's around today, I think that it's not likely, and I'll see another one in my lifetime. I'm headed towards, God willing, I'm headed towards 70 years old. But being undefeated means that you want to roll the dice, and we're in an atmosphere now in boxing where people just interested in keeping their O instead of competing against the best guys in boxing. I don't think Floyd Mayweather was ever the undisputed champion in any division.
He never was.
Right?
No, he wasn't.
You know, so I figured this guy was a beautiful boxer. He wasn't a big puncher, but he was a beautiful boxer, and he never became the undisputed champion. I want undisputed. My life, my whole effort is to be undisputed. To guide a guy to undisputed. The world, the fans want undisputed.
What have you made of Josh Taylor and his undisputed march?
Do we have all of the belts?
Yeah,
He has 3 of them.
He's got all of them.
He's got all of them?
He's got all of them. He fought Ramirez for the last set.
Then respect for him. I think he's a good fighter. I think he's a solid fighter. I think he's a willing fighter, and he deserves respect.
He's talking of moving up to fight Terence Crawford, which is something I was suggesting. What do you think, Crawford Taylor?
Well, I think his desires is on track. I think that I don't think he can beat Terence Crawford, but I think that his desires is on track, and kudos, respect for him.
What do you make of the Crawford career?
Who?
Under Bob Arum. Terence Crawford's career.
I think that Terence Crawford should have bounced on Bob Arum 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's just too slow. It just takes too slow. I mean, Bob is not investing in Terence. I think that Terence now has the credibility. He has the money to do things on his own, the way Floyd Mayweather, the way Oscar De La Hoya and Mikey Garcia, all those guys bounced on Bob. Because Bob wasn't investing money, he was just making money. He's not investing no money. He's just making money. He's using his connects in the business to make fights, and he's just all the money is coming into Bob, but Bob is not putting no money out to promote them. So I think that Terence Crawford needs to bounce. He needs to go.
But you see, that Crawford could be comfortable. Don't have to take any serious opposition. Just get paid every so often, and then just run behind Bob and say, "Well, you know what? Bob's not promoting my career. Just keep milking the money and fighting B-level opponents."
Oh, he's not doing himself any favors.
And he's not getting any younger.
I think that he needs to get away from Bob. They had a good relationship. Let it go while you're still young. Let it go. You've made a lot of money. You can go out basically and promote yourself. You can make these fights yourself. If you got anybody with any kind of diplomacy in boxing, you can make the fights yourself.
The one guy I really would like to see retire now is Danny Garcia. There's nothing there for him anymore. He doesn't want to fight anymore.
Yeah. Danny's made a lot of money. He did all right for himself. But I think now would be a good time for him to get out. He needs one big fight and get out.
I don't know where this trainer is. He said he's on his way, but I don't know where he is.
Pardon me?
I don't know where the trainer is. He said he's on his way. Oh, I'll get this question answered. Does Uncle Bashir have a certain type of heavyweight or just adapt to the fighter? Oh, here he is. Here he is. Here he is. I think he's in the room. Hold on. Here he is. Good evening, sir.
Oh, how are you?
I'm good. Everybody, this is Tony to CESSAY. Tony CESSAY, please meet Uncle James Ali Bashir.
Hello, Mr. Ali. We talk quite a bit on the group chat we have. So he's very influential.
Uncle Bashir, did you hear that?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So
I'm appreciative, yes.
If Tony, if you could just give just a brief background into about your boxing, what you've done in boxing as a fighter and as the stuff you've done with amateur fighters and the pros, if you could just have a brief overview for Uncle Bashir, because I'm trying to make that strong connect for you when he comes to the UK, if you get what I mean.
I've loved boxing from day one, really. I've boxed as an amateur. I love the amateur game. And, you know, I've come into the pro game in the very late stages of my life because, you know, I love the amateur game that much. I traveled the world. I boxed for a very famous club, the Repton Club, which was, you know, renowned for making champions all over, you know, from way back in the 50s and 60s, you know, 70s, the 80s. So, you know, I had over 350 odd fights as an amateur because I loved the game so much, and I went to most of all the games. You know, so it was fantastic. Representing England and representing Sierra Leone, my parents' country, and yeah, just traveling the world and loving the game. You know, and from when I retired, I gave back to my community because it was important. I think, you know, boxing taught me and gave me a lot of things, a lot of tools to adapt myself in life. And you know, I had to give some of that back. I had to show young people how they can be successful and how the sport can make them successful in anything they wanted to do, really. You know, it didn't have to be boxing because boxing is too hard. You have to be very special to take on a sport like boxing, you know, to continue it. To do it, you can do it and keep fit and make you feel good, look good, feel good. But to continually do it, it's a very hard sport. And I wouldn't put it on anyone who hasn't got the ambition and the heart to really push themselves in it. You end up not knowing where you live if you don't really take it, you know, if you don't do it properly, if you don't get the mindset right to want to be successful. You know, I think you only box to become a champion, you know, and that's why I boxed. I wanted to box because I wanted to be a champion. I wanted to box the best, you know, and you know, we had the best living all around my area. You know, we had some champions who lived there, and I saw like the Commonwealth Games, the Olympic Games, and I said I wanted to be just like them, you know, have a parade in our area for them. And I was thought to myself, yeah, I'd love to do that. And yeah, and that was it for me. That was fantastic. Now I try to develop a few young prospects in the pro game. The pro game's such a different aspects. It's different. One's a business, one's a sport, and it's a hard. When you come to the game of the pro game, it's so different. It's unbelievable. You either hate it or you like it. You know, I know what it's all about, so I try to be happy in every sense, smile and have a laugh with the people around it. Because if you don't, you can really dislike it if you don't have the mindset for it. You know, it's a very hard game, and it's a business, and people have to really understand the business to the sport. Yeah, that's it. That's me.
Some of the guys that you've worked with, through the amateur game? I'd like you to.
I've worked with
So,
lots. I've worked with lots of good kids where I've developed them, you know, and but you know, it was their saying, it was their doing to push themselves to that extent, you know. I gave them the tools. I took them off the streets to you know, to say, this is, you can do better than this, and that's all I did, you know. And I'll keep on doing that till I come off this planet, you know, just giving kids a chance.
Some of those fighters Uncle Bashir would know, i.e. Anthony Yard, for example.
Yeah, you know, I don't like naming the names. I don't like calling them out because
I know you don't, but for the purposes of this show and educating Uncle Bashir about your background, I think it's key. It's not showing off. It is what you are. It's what you've done. It's fact.
Yeah, no, it's just, they're just young people. They're young people who want to do something different. So once they come on and they really want to do something, that's when you do something with them. You know, you can't do anything with somebody who doesn't really want to do nothing. And these kids, they want to do something. So you know, with their talent, because they've got talent, you know. So, you know, if you haven't got that talent, it makes it harder. You know, but yeah, I've worked with lots and lots of young people, and they're all boxing for good clubs, and some are good pros. You know, some will be hopefully, you know, champions. You know, to world champions, because that's what they wanted to be. That's why they turned pro. You know, I always loved the amateur game because I just loved developing young people into something they could never think they could make, and now they turned pros. So becoming a good amateur and then now to becoming a good pro is something different, and it relays more hard work, and you have to have key people with you to really help you. You must have knowledgeable people and key people which have to take responsibility in your growth. It being, you know, to be a world champion in the pro game.
Uncle Bashir.
Well, you know, God chooses everybody to do what they do, to relate to what they relate to. You know, we don't choose boxing. Boxing chooses us.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
chose to be an amateur coach, and you invested yourself in developing fighters, you know. And I've taken another road, you know, after my amateur experience, I mistakenly got into pro boxing, and I took it and I ran with it. So guys like you are very much needed in pro boxing, because I think that the amateur coach around the world does not get the credibility that they deserve for being the developer of guys who turn out to be good professional fighters. And even the professional fighters need to look back on their amateur coach, the guy that taught them how to stand up, the guy that taught them how to deliver the jab, how to roll a punch, how to counter. You know, they need to look back and pay tribute, to pay homage to those amateur coaches. So yeah, I respect you. I have great respect for you. You know, it starts
Yeah, thank
somewhere.
you.
Most of the trainers that are training boxers, they come in and they claim the credit for the success of the boxer, but actually, and I've said this many times before, and I'll continue to say it throughout my lifetime. Actually, the amateur coach deserves so much more respect than what they get, both from the public and from the boxers themselves. The boxers themselves need to come back and pay homage to the amateur coach, because that amateur coach is the guy who spent all of those years, all of that time, trying to prepare these guys and make them correct enough to go forward as being professionals, to achieving their amateur status. So they need to go back and contribute to the amateur program from which they came from. So yeah, I have the greatest respect in the world for you, you know, and all amateur coaches throughout the world, not just there in UK, but throughout the
Yeah,
world.
definitely.
I have great
Yes.
respect for them. I have great respect for them, you know.
Yeah.
I think that they're overlooked. I
Yeah.
think
Definitely.
I think
Definitely.
ego and arrogance plays a role in major parts of all of our lives. Ego and arrogance. I am confronted with that all of the time here in Ukraine, in America, in Colombia, in Pakistan, in Panama, you know, in Puerto Rico, in Dominican Republic. I'm always confronted with some hot shot coach, either pro or amateur, that wants to show me what they got, to show me what they know, as opposed to them saying, here's a guy that has years in the boxing. Let me see if I can tap into him and gain some wisdom. So we're in a time of arrogance and ignorance as opposed to seeking knowledge or embracing knowledge. You know, I did it. I did it with so many older trainers. These trainers have been dead for years, but their life and their knowledge that they traded with me lives on in me. You know, it lives every time I turn a page in my boxing knowledge. I think about a specific trainer that I absorb knowledge from them,
Yeah.
because the knowledge that we get in this life, it doesn't belong to us. You, Ingram, everybody here right now listening to us, all of us are gonna die. We're gonna die,
That's certain. That's
all
certain.
right?
That's it.
But the knowledge that we
Pass
transfer
on.
to other people,
Definitely.
lives on. We're gonna die. We're gonna age. I don't look the same way now as I did when I was 29 or when I was 20 or when I was 19, because time works on all things. And what was so apparent yesterday is not so apparent today. So we've got to embrace the things that God give to us. And only God can call our number. That's why when we go to people's funerals, we say his or her untimely. Untimely. Can you imagine if everybody knew when God was going to call them back, what the world would be like? If somebody called Ingram today or tomorrow and said, Ingram, you're going to die on September the 21st at 3 o'clock p.m. Can you imagine the mindset that Ingram would be in? Ingram would drive down to the gas station and say, I'm going to kill that motherfucker, you know, that got on my nerve. Can you imagine what you would be like if somebody told you were going to die on August the 1st, you understand, at 2 o'clock? Can you imagine what you would be like? You would be reckless, because you say, I'm going to get everybody I don't like. And then if I get arrested for killing 17 people, I would tell the arresting officers, said, look, I'm out of here on August the 21st. I'm going to die. So that's why we call people's deaths untimely death. All right? Everything is untimely because we don't know. The only thing we do know is that when a doctor slaps us on our ass in a in a hospital, and we scream out, we cry. "Ah." We're not crying because we're in pain. No, that's just part of it. We're crying out because we're saying, God, I accept this life that you are giving me. And I'm taking a deep breath. I'm accepting this life that you're giving me, but I accept the death that is imminent. I accept the death that's going to follow me. Now give me some Gerber's baby food and a pamper, and let's get this show on the road. You understand?
Definitely.
Let's go. Let's get this party started, because I know I'm going to die, but I'm willing to take the chances. I want to meet some girls. I want to have a good time. I want to make some babies. I want to do all kinds of things. For however long that you give me this life, I'm here to make the best of it. Yeah. With religion and all, I want to party. But I know that God is going to call me back. So while we here, we got to transfer our knowledge for the next generation. We can't be afraid to do that. I'm not afraid to do it, you know. And I'm walking in. I'm walking, hopefully, God willing, that I'm walking into 70. But I don't have no fear, because I know I've done the right thing. I believe in my heart that I've done the right thing. I believe that I'm a perfect example of what my mother taught me to be. So you are one of the guys that I got the greatest respect for you. The greatest respect. And I respect my brother Ingram, for having me on the show.
Yes, me too.
We gotta unite, man. We gotta unite, man. We gotta unite universally. Because God made all people. God made all of us. And he made every one of us to be a contributor to this earth, to this knowledge. All right? He made us all. We can't curse God. If we curse each other, then we're cursing God, because God created us. So our position is to be able to say, we are here representing God.
Tony,
and boxing is just a part of it.
Tony, can you tell us a little bit, and the people who are still watching, about the Michael Watson the fundraiser that you were privileged to go to? A lot of people probably didn't know about it in the boxing world.
Oh, Michael Watson is fantastic. It was a lovely event for Michael. Bashir, Mr. Bashir Ali, he would know Michael Watson. He was such a delightful man, and he
I
had
know
this.
I know.
Yeah,
Listen.
he's a fantastic guy, and he's never ever got the help he really deserved. The ground he boxed on, the team he supported.
Gerald McClellan is the same. Gerald McClellan is the same. There are a lot of boxers.
Yes, I know. It's
there's
awful.
a lot of boxers
awful.
out there, brother. There's a lot of boxers out there.
There's so many,
who don't know how to spell their names.
Yeah,
Who don't know how to spell.
And I understand that, because when you look, and people don't understand it, here is a smaller nation. So here we get to try and look after our fighters, where in America it's so big. I've seen champions on the street begging. When I go to America, my friend tells me, look at this guy here. He used to be a champion. Look at this guy. And I go to the next state. Look at that guy there. He used to be a champion. It's unbelievable. And here we try our best to gather around and do something with our, legends. And we had an event for Michael Watson, and James Cook did it because he was a good friend of Michael Watson, and James developed it, and it was really good. It was at the Pedro Center, and lots of people came to it. It was fantastic just to have and see them professional people who used to box come out for Michael. It was, the powers beyond that don't ever help Michael. They've never helped Michael. So it's unbelievable, you know. But we came out for him, and he was very happy, you know.
Why is it they don't care for Michael Watson? What is it about that?
Say that again.
Why is it they didn't care for Michael Watson? What is it about that?
Because let me answer that. Because we as Africans don't care about the next person. We as Africans have become cold and callous. In my opinion, it comes from the mixing of blood over the years from slavery. All right? Because
And
blood
yes,
mixed.
yes, true. And dividing and making light of skin.
Oh man, there's so many things that I
So
can
many
point
things.
to.
I know.
But the mixing of blood was one of those things that made us callous. And we took on the attributes of our captors. We took on the attributes of our captors. That's why we tolerate so much. That's why we endure so much. Because we don't care about each other. But our problem, we're on 3 different continents right now. But our problem is connected because we don't care. And the minute that we embrace each other universally, it's going to change. But I think that the blood mixing, look at your skin color. Look at my skin color. Look at your skin color.
Yeah.
You can
But
tell there was blood. There was blood
yeah.
mixing.
Yeah,
And
it's blood, but we have
mixing,
the same blood. We have the same blood as everyone, you know.
But
I mean,
let me tell you something.
It's melanin that makes us different.
Our
That's
blood
it.
was tampered with. Our skin was supposed to be black. Black is the background that's in back of us right now. But our skin is light because there was blood mixing. And there was no care. There was blood mixing. And we did what we had to do in a selfish manner. That's why nobody cares about Michael. Nobody cares about Michael because there was nothing that led to us caring about it. Gerald McQuillan and countless others. I know people in America that can't even spell their name.
Yeah. Sad.
Please, I
Very sad.
gotta do a talk. I got a door. Somebody's at my door this time of morning.
You were saying, continue about Michael Watson. It's a sad thing when you see Michael Watson situation. So sad.
Oh, it is. It's such a sad thing. I know. I mean, for me, I just know that there's people out there that do care. It doesn't matter where you're from, what you do. If you love boxing and you love champions and you love that, you would love people like Michael Watson. Do you know?
Of course.
You know, for me, I see it as that. You know, as people who love the sport. It doesn't matter what you are into. You would love that athlete. If it's a kickboxer, if it's a a show jumper, horse driver, a car racing car driver, it doesn't matter. You know, I think there has to be a degree of people who can look after certain people after they've
absolutely.
did a hard sport like boxing. They have to learn. We have to learn how to look after each other. You know, I mean, you can talk about the mixing of blood, this and that, but it's all to do with the care of people.
Accountability. Accountability is key. We have to be accountable for our actions, and I think the British Boxing Board of Control could do so much more. I don't know what they're doing at the moment, but they could do much more. They could do things aftercare for fighters. I know Barry McQuillan was doing something about that. He was doing trying to get aftercare for boxers.
I think
boxers when they retire.
It's got better. It's got better now, but they need a union, you know. They need a union.
Yeah.
They need something there which can look after the fighter after his career, to get him onto programs, to get him jobs. Some fighters never ever they never come out of that system of where they've come from.
Now, Jill Diamond from the WBC cares. I did an interview with her years ago, and she talked about the work the WBC does and puts back into the communities. And they do a lot of these functions, so they get the fighters to go to various hospitals and various gyms and special appearances and so gloves and stuff like that. They put that money back into the community. WBC do something like that.
Things, people like Sky, you know, top people and promoters who have got the panel, you know, to do that. They should take on old fighters like that. You know, at the moment, all they're thinking about is money, and that's it. That's all we can think about is money.
Michael Watson would be a great ambassador actually for that same thing.
I think every boxer will be a great ambassador for their community, because everybody lives in different places, and I think being an athlete can be a great ambassador to young people in that community. That's what makes a vibrant community. That's what develops a vibrant community. That's how we need these people here. And an athlete is that counterpoint for us to say this is what he did to become successful. And the more we show that, the more we glide in that, the more we're going to have better people, young people growing up in our community a lot more positive, you know, the attributes that they want to do. Instead of idolizing certain people, they can idolize, you know, a good athlete who's done well for himself, you know, and push him and be helped at the same time. I think the platforms out there, the big platforms, the radio shows, the TV, they get so much money off of us, of the public, the Joe public. We put so much money into their pockets that they don't give it back to people who watch their programs, who do things for their programs. You know, them silly little calls where you call for £2 and text for, they're earning so much money that you think that they're giving out 10 grand, 30 grand. They're earning so much money for that to keep their studio alive. That's how most of them have kept alive all this year, by, you know, putting people into who have got no money to play them games, them silly little two-piece phone-in games and things. They become richer and richer, and they don't put nothing back into the community, the listeners who make their programs, who make everything tick. So, you know, that's where I'm you know, where I'm coming from, because when you see good men like Michael Watson not having a thing in the world, and all he has in his life now is God, because that's what he believes in now, because that's what's driven him to this point, is for him to just believe in God and talk about God. Because I've seen him in a few talks where he'll go to churches and he'll talk, and it's amazing that how people really think, wow, he did all this and no help at all. Unbelievable. And especially when the lockdown has come in, he might do a few appearances here and there, but there's nothing been open. So just think, he's had nothing, you know, he's had nothing, you know. So it was, you know, hands up to James Cook, who really gave him that, you know, done something for him. It was brilliant, and everybody came.
On the subject of James Cook, now he's part of Team Yard, I understand.
Say that again.
On the subject of James Cook, I understand that he's part of Team Yard. He's now training with, he's now helping advise Tunde Ajayi with Anthony Yard.
That's fantastic, and that's a good ad. I think that's a good ad to, you know, to a team with a great talent. I think that you have to combine. You know, if you can combine all your knowledge, you know, it's a bit boring, isn't it, when you think you know it all. You know, when, you know, it becomes boring. You know, it becomes that, you know, you're the one and you're doing. No, it becomes great when you have a team. You have people that you can trust, and somebody you can rely on to do things for you, to say things. and give you ideas. That's how it should really run, you know. And I think, you know, Anthony appointing that and making that happen, you know, it's good. And you know, and Tunde you know, accepting it and making it good, and they get on. They've always got on. I think, you know, you can only get on with someone like James Cook. James Cook is so lovable, you know, it's unbelievable. So he's such a nice guy. It's you know, you couldn't say no. I wouldn't want to work with him. I mean, when I was an amateur, I used to just go and watch James Cook at the Pedro, can do coaching, all his coaching. You think, wow, I would love to be coached by this man if I turned professional, you know, because the things that he's teaching is so clinical, it's so vast. The knowledge that he has, it's unbelievable. So you've got to bow to when you have people like that who's won. You know, I don't think James won, you know, world championship, but he won a European, he won a British, and for me, that's enough knowledge in there to develop a world champion. You've got a lot of young people out there who are YouTubers, you know, and they're out there with talented kids at this moment, this present time.
They're going to
You know,
get them hurt.
they have got talented kids, and they're going to get, yes, of course they are, because these so-called people have never been hit on the chin, so they don't know what it's like to be hit on the chin. What they've done, they've got the resume by being in the game. So you've got people like Mr. Ali Bashir, who's been in the game for so long. So that experience is so great. It's so knowledgeable. So it's not saying that you have to box to become knowledgeable, to be the great
he's
coach.
been hit on the
You
chin.
haven't. You haven't. All you have to have is the patience, and you have to have the where he's travelled. When you see someone like Mr. Bashir has travelled and he's taken in that knowledge from everybody. You know, I had the knowledge from Mr. Tony Burns, you know, rest in peace, and George Odwell. They're the ones who influenced me, you know, and other people from the when I boxed as a youngster, the Popular Boys, Freddie Finch, you know, Freddie, and they were the first sort of people to take me on, to teach me about boxing and about the science under with that boxing, because it comes with a science, it comes with something, that knowledge that you must have. You don't just come in there and start doing the stuff like the pads and you know. And this is what you've got. You've got men who've been doing this for years and years, and they just get kids into trouble. The young kids get knocked out, and they don't ever come back. So that's why we lose a lot of young people, because they are directed to the wrong person, and that person just gets him knocked out. You know, the art is that you've got to keep
not
that
get
kid
hit.
safe. You've got to keep that kid safe enough and knowledgeable enough to move them feet, because because it's about the feet as well as about punching, about that head movement and everything. And when you got a good coach as an amateur to teach you all them things, you know, you can strive to bigger things. So, and there's only certain special coaches. If you're at the right place at the right time and you meet them coaches, that's when you strive. Even when you might not have that knowledge, but you have that desire to be the best. You know, when a kid comes to me and he tells me, you know, the reasons why he wants to box. Now, if he doesn't tell me that he wants to be a champion, then I know that he's just keep fitter. I will just keep him fit and try and keep him knowledgeable about the game, because for me, I can feel that he could become a doctor. He could become something special in the game where they would look after boxers. That's how I think, you know. I always think in the grounds of boxing, how we make our sport bigger and better through, you know, educating people into our sport, because, you know, our sport is a very, very hard sport. To be a gladiator and to fight another person is hard. You know, if you went to a doctor today, the doctor would tell you don't box. You know, if you it's simple. If you went into a hospital for the hospital injury, they will make you wait longer, because they will say that was your fault because you did it. And now they were rather taking somebody who's been run over but done his foot in or before you. And I had to learn that. I had to learn that because I thought I was being, you know, I just got injured in sparring. I would go to the hospital to tell them what I did. And I tell them I boxed. Yeah, I boxed. I did this in boxing. And they will just leave you to last. You'll be in there for about 4 to 5, 6 hours. You know, you've never mentioned it. Never ever mentioned when you're going to the hospital that you're doing boxing because you know you're doing that in your own part. You're messing up your own body. You know, so they won't care about you. They'll care about that patient who's just, you know, been fallen over or been run over or had an accident to him. So, and when I started to learn that, I started to learn that through the coaches. The coaches were there to guide me through that, even though it's a small thing, but it's a thing that will help you because you will now tell your boxers and say the same thing where you'll tell them, don't say you box when you go to the hospital. You don't
You
tell
know,
because
you know. In short,
you're left last.
look. In short, boxers have to be knowledgeable enough to realize this has nothing to do with boxing, but it has to do with life.
Yeah.
The boxer has got to be intelligent enough to know that when an individual means them good and when an individual means them bad. And that's a life lesson. To be able to read between the lines when somebody is there to benefit your life, not just your boxing career, but
Yeah,
benefit your
life
life.
skills. Definitely. Life skills, yes.
My application in boxing with the people that I've worked with over the years, there's not one that can say that I did not care about their lives. Not one. And if one does come forward and said that I didn't care about their lives, then I would challenge them. Because I know in my heart and mind that I was a person that cared. And I still
Yeah,
care.
definitely.
If I see a guy
Yeah,
that's not capable, if I see a woman that's not capable, I say,
yes.
get out of boxing, pursue
Get out of
something else.
boxing. I do the same. I'll do the same, Mr. Bashir. I do it quite
You got
frequently. I do it quite
you got to
frequently.
stand up. You got to
Yeah,
stand up.
you got
If
to
you
tell
don't
them
stand up,
they're not gonna make it.
you're not good. You're
Wow.
not good unless you stand up.
Yeah,
You got to
yeah,
stand up and
yeah.
say, look, this is not for you. All right?
Yes, go
I'm
and
not
play
going to just
cricket.
say it's
Go
not
and play
good.
cricket, tennis.
No.
Go and play cricket.
Yeah,
Don't go and play cricket. Go and play rugby.
yeah. I tell them. That's what I tell them. I tell them all the time. Some dislike me for when I've said it to them, but then they come back to me a few years later and they
If
say,
you got
Tony, thank you
two,
for doing that.
look, if you got
Thank
two
you.
left feet, if you got two left feet,
Yes.
if you got two right
Don't
feet,
play football.
then you're no good for boxing.
Yeah. Go and play cricket. That's what I say.
My son,
I don't good at cricket. Send them away. I don't want them at cricket. Send them, you can have them.
my
Get on the 2
my
left feet.
oldest son,
I don't need them.
my oldest son had fallen arches. So I said, we can get around it. I put him through more amateur fights, and I saw that he could not be nimble on his movement. And I told him, I said, this is not for you. Step away from it. He loved boxing so much. I said, this is not for you. Step
Yeah.
away from it. You understand? Leave it alone. You've got to have 93, 94% of what it requires to be a boxer. My son had like 81%. And I said, no. You got to step away from this here. Otherwise, you're going to get your brain knocked out. Because you don't have
that's right.
you don't have what it takes. I didn't have what it takes.
You told him the truth, but we've got a lot of fighters. We've got a lot of boxers and coaches who don't tell the truth. They don't tell them the fighters the truth, you know, and they stink. They let them go out for the next round to get battered, to get knocked out, and then
No. I, as a boxer, did not have what it took to be a professional boxer. So I packed up my bags and I left it and I became a coach
Yeah.
because I felt that I would be better with my knowledge of the sport than I would be in the ring. The only thing I could do in the ring, as slow as I was, as predictable as I was, is get my brains knocked out. And if
Yeah.
I got my brain knocked out, I couldn't be here talking to you guys now.
That's
So I
right.
said,
That's
you
right.
better, you know, like I said, you don't chose boxing. Boxing chose you.
Yeah.
You understand? You don't want to be out there giving boxing a bad name. So you move on the other side of the roast and leave it to somebody else who has more attributes than you. And I told my son, leave it alone. You're not capable. You know what I'm saying? You gotta have at least 90 or 80, 89, 91%. You can skin by with those other lackings. But if you can't skin by with those other lackings, you're gonna have problems. There's no
Gentlemen,
shame in being.
it's 3 hours we've been on, and it's almost midnight in the UK.
Okay,
I don't know what time it is with you, Uncle Bashir.
it's 2 o'clock. It's 2 o'clock here. It's 1:48 a.m. here in Ukraine. So I'm out.
Hey,
Okay.
it's 11:48
All
where we
right.
are.
Yeah.
Tony,
What
it was great to
what
see
time?
you.
What time is it in the UK?
11:48
It's
p.m.
10 to 12. 10 to 12 in the
Yeah,
night.
10 to 12. 10 to
All
12.
right. It's 1:48 here in Ukraine. I'm just getting started. But I loved. Look. I love talking boxing.
It's
You understand?
fantastic.
I think that one of the big things in boxing now is that boxers do not know, they do not realize when somebody is no good for them. They do not realize when somebody is just
Yeah.
owning in
Using them.
and
They find
using
out
it.
in the end, though. They find out in the end.
Usually when they're looking up at the lights.
Yes. Yeah.
I know boxers in America that can't spell their names. I
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
one recently who was in law enforcement. In America, when you're in law enforcement, you've got to be able to shoot. You have to go to the range to be able to shoot at targets. And if you cannot pass that range test, then your employment is in question. And this guy was shooting the ceiling, he's shooting the floor, the walls, and they said, you haven't hit the target yet, and you had 19, 20 shots. And they did it again and again and again. And because his equilibrium was so screwed up, he couldn't even hit the target. They fired him. They had to fire him because he was not capable, because his brain was so deranged. And when you talk to him now, he's talking like, you are that way, because he's so punchy.
Yeah. We've got lots of fighters like that. We've got lots of fighters like that in big places and don't know what
You
they're doing.
understand? So
Messing up a lot of people's lives.
that's because the people around them didn't tell them, hey, stop. They just saw a meal ticket, and now they're on to the next meal ticket.
Yeah.
But I've always told the guys that I work with, this is not for you no more. Step away. And then I'll leave. I gotta go.
Yeah.
I'm telling you now, stop this here. Save yourself, save your brain, save your well-being, save yourself for your family. If nothing else, save yourself for your family. Walk away.
And a lot of them don't do that. A lot of them would for the experience that you have and the years of experience, and you're telling them that you're not good enough for this sport. Leave it. Go and do something else. They will go to another club they will go to another manager, coach, and they'll get their brains busted up. They'll
I
get
did the
their
same.
ass beat. And
I did the same
they'll
thing.
come back to you and they'll say, I should have listened. But that's so it's
Too
too
late.
late. Too late.
All right, let's
They're
stop this
finished.
here. I'll see you guys tomorrow. God
Bye-bye.
bless.
Uncle Bashir, good night. Tony,
Bye-bye. You
great
too.
to talk to you, bro.
You too. Take care.
Everybody on BWTM Sports, thanks for
Tony,
watching. Share the video. Good night to
Tony,
everybody.
Tony, I
Yes.
look to see you again, brother.
Yeah, definitely. We'll talk on the group chat, on Earl's group chat.
Anytime, just reach out for me. Anytime.
Take
Good night,
care.
guys.
Yes.
Good night.
Take care. Good night.
As they say in Ukraine, as they say in the Ukraine, Spokony noche. Spokony noche. That's good
Spokony
night.
Spokony noche.
Spokony
As they
noche.
say, but they say in Italian, buonanotte.